historical inaccuracies when asking the program to generate images of popes or the founding fathers. Now, Google says it's pausing Gemini's ability to create images of people. It also says the feature does generate a wide range of people, and that's generally a good thing, but it's missing the mark here.
Google says it will re-release an improved version soon. And right now in the volunteer state, hot slaw will now be considered a state food in Tennessee. The vinegary dish got its final approval today. Hot slaw will be joining the ranks of other official state symbols, such as the tomato for the state fruit and the raccoon as the state's wild animal. That is the latest news. Weather, our first traffic report coming up next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. 7 minutes now past the hour, 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. It's Brian Wilson. I'm in the chair on this Thursday, the 22nd day of February. It is the 282nd birthday of George Washington. Happy birthday. You don't look a year over 281, but we're glad that you're with us. If you are getting ready to go home or beginning your commute, sit back. We got lots of information to bring to you. Now, I want to start off today with a story that a lot of people are now beginning to poo-poo, and that's the investigation into Biden Incorporated. And the real question there, everybody says, well, Hunter Biden's under investigation. No, Hunter Biden's not under investigation. I mean, he may be a byproduct of the investigation, but one of the things that the House Oversight Committee is trying to do is really look into whether or not our president has been co-opted, and whether or not he was influence peddling through his family. That's really what it's all about. And there have been some developments in that story of late that have had many people out there saying, oh, well, that story now, it doesn't look like it's going to go anywhere. And I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think it's going away at all. And what I can't decide is this spate of reporting that has basically that the House Oversight Committee is deeply flawed because it depended on a source of information that is found to be a double agent with Russia. And I don't know whether this is lazy reporting or dumb reporting or slanted reporting. I think it's probably the latter, but I mean, it's hard to tell. but it's not. Now, if you don't know the story and what that has happened here lately, let me bring you up to date on what has happened and then what some people are saying about it, and then I'll tell you why they're wrong. You ready? Okay, here we go. This is from thehill.com. This is one of these breathless reporters who seems to think that, well, all of this effort to investigate Hunter Biden and Joe Biden has been a complete waste of time. Republicans are seeking to preserve the credibility of their inquiries into the Biden family after a huge setback. On Tuesday, a court filing revealed that a former FBI informant behind a discredited claim that President Biden and his son Hunter Biden received bribes is allegedly linked to Russian intelligence. Democrats, including House Oversight and Accountability Committee ranking member, Democrat Jamie Raskin of Maryland, say the revelation should be the beginning of the end of the impeachment inquiry into the president. Well, first of all, anybody who gives Jamie Raskin a bit of credibility has made a mistake, because this is a man who repeatedly came to the microphones and lied to reporters about what he knew regarding Trump. Turned out to be wrong. Now, the former informant, Alexander Smirnov, was arrested last week and charged with making false statements to his FBI handlers. It was only Tuesday that the allegation of the Russian links emerged. First of all, let me say, if indeed Alexander Smirnov has turned out to be a double agent, as is now somewhat being suggested by the FBI, there is no indication that what he said about Joe Biden was incorrect. We don't know what he said that caused the FBI to start to doubt him or be concerned about him. But, I mean, it is entirely possible that what he told him about Joe Biden was correct. And the case, this is the guy who apparently was the source of that much-discussed 1023 report that the FBI had about the operation. And it was, at that time, by the way, the FBI and Christopher Wray, the director of the FBI, certified to the people who were conducting the current investigation that, yeah, this guy is a reliable source. We've paid him a lot of money over time, and we believe that his information is credible. Okay, so anyway, they now are saying because he has been decided to be a double agent in some nature. See, this is not the only thing that this guy has helped the FBI on. There are a lot of things that he's helped him on. I mean, it's been a long time confidential informant who had that the FBI paid hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars to over time. So this is a guy with whom they had a long-running relationship. So Did he lie about Joe Biden? We don't know. We honestly don't know what it is that set the FBI against this guy. But they thought that his information had checked out and had been credible in the past. It may be that the guy was playing both sides of the streets. Who knows? A legal filing from the prosecutors Tuesday included the details of the alleged Russian links as part of a broader argument that Smirnov, a citizen of Israel, should not be allowed out of detention pending his trial because the government considers him frightless. So that's how this all came about. Okay. So Raskin looks at this and he says, here's my chance to convince everybody that these guys have been barking up the wrong tree. Absolutely. That's what he was trying to do. Now, this Smirnov guy had said he'd been told by an executive Burisma that the Ukrainian energy company where Hunter Biden served on the board, that the executive had felt obligated to pay the Bidens massive bribes amounting to $5 million each to the president and son. The new legal filing starkly notes that these events were fabrications and that Smirnov was not even in contact with the Burisma executive until much later than he claimed. All right, so, there you go. That's what has been said by the FBI. But here's the thing. There must have been a nugget of truth to it, because as you get into real evidence, we're not talking about what somebody whispered to somebody else. We're talking about what the evidence shows. We're talking about bank records and all kinds of activity. The House Oversight Committee's investigation may have been, the information that this guy gave them may have piqued their interest, but that's not what they've built their case on. They've built their case on real bank records and evidence and depositions and investigation techniques. And what have they found? Let's not lose sight of what they've found here. They have found that a lot of money went from Burisma to Hunter Biden, and a lot of money went to President Biden's brother, James Biden. A lot of money was being then filtered through a whole series of what you call shell corporations, 20 of them, to sort of hide where this money was coming from until it arrived in their accounts. And then all of a sudden now, James Biden, we now know, has written checks to his brother, big checks, and all of a sudden it's allegedly the payback of a loan. Okay. Again, none of that relies upon the confidential informant that the FBI is now concerned about. Here is justthenews.com. John Solomon does great reporting over there. Attempts to discredit impeachment inquiry overlook concrete evidence. Congressional Democrats pounced on the recent charges against a Hunter Biden informant, claiming the source's questionable reliability calls into question the foundation of House Republicans' impeachment inquiry into President Biden. Yet the informant's information, which the prosecutors allege is false, has little to do with the concrete evidence assembled by the impeachment inquiry and from independent sources, including Just the News, that indicate that President Biden likely had knowledge of or and participated in official actions based on his son's business ventures. Last week, Special Counsel David Weiss, who is prosecuting Hunter Biden on alleged tax and gun crimes, recently charged an FBI informant with providing false information to the intelligence agency in his reports about the younger Biden's work with Burisma Holdings. Maryland Representative Jamie Raskin, the leading Democrat on the Oversight Committee, argues this means the impeachment inquiry is essentially over, undermined by the new revelations exposed this week in court documents. And it goes on and on and on. But House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan, a leading Republican in the impeachment effort, pushed back on Raskin's characterization. When Christopher Steele lied to the FBI about President Trump, he gets paid more. When Smirnov lies to the FBI about President Biden, he gets indicted. Go figure. Jordan told reporters referencing the infamous Steele dossier, it doesn't change the fundamental facts, and that's exactly what I want to impress upon you. It does not change the fundamental facts as they have been presented and as they've been found by a pretty sharp group of investigators working for the House Oversight Committee. There's a lot of evidence there that really looks bad for the Biden family. Now, yesterday, there was all this reporting, again, it seemed very slanted, quoting from James Biden, brother of Joe Biden, from his opening statement to the committee as he began his deposition. And it says, then they were talking about how he said, my brother was not at all involved. Well, okay, that's what he's going to say. It's a very, very carefully crafted statement that's been vetted by his lawyers. And if you had the opportunity to get him on cross-exam, you could pick it apart. James Biden told Congress, this is from the Washington Examiner, he told him in a closed-door interview on Wednesday yesterday that he never used his brother, Joe Biden, to further his own business pursuits. But the younger Biden also made remarks about his China-related ventures that conflict with the testimony of others. James Biden's remarks came as part of his opening statement obtained by the Washington Examiner. The president's younger brother addressed a string of payments totaling hundreds of thousands of dollars that were wired to his company in 2017. He said the payments came from Bob Walker and originated from an affiliate of CEFC, an energy company intertwined with the Chinese government, according to bank records obtained by the House Oversight Committee. The payments, Walker told Congress this month, were part of a joint venture between CEFC, Walker, James Biden, and Hunter Biden to invest in projects in the United States and elsewhere. I received several payments that I understood to come from Hunter. I did not know then, and I've only learned recently the money I received was a portion of Hunter's share that he directed Mr. Walker to send to me. However, Walker had a different account. Walker told the House Oversight Committee, according to a transcript of the interview, that James Biden implicitly instructed Walker to send him money in the spring of 2017. So there's conflicting testimony. Here's another version of it from the Washington Times. Here, I'll just read the headline. Biden's brother, ex-associate, clash in testimony about payments from a Chinese energy firm. I guess what I'm trying to tell you here is that when you hear a story that's based on somebody's opening comments as they're going through a deposition before they are challenged and cross-examined, that's a very one-sided version. Is it important to the reporting? Yes. If that's what he said, it is important to note what he said, of course. But you have to understand that you should look at those comments as his best version of his story, not necessarily the truth. The Biden investigation, incorporated investigation, is not dead. It is not going away, and it is not based on that one Russian informant who now apparently the FBI trusted for a while but no longer trusts. It's not based on that. It's based on real, hard bank record evidence. So when you read that has no credibility, the investigation has no credibility, take it with a grain of salt. It's either lazy reporting, dumb reporting, or slanted reporting. Doesn't matter. It's just not good reporting. 21 minutes now past the hour, 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. USS, when we had all that rain the other day, you may find that you have some waterproofing issues or you may have some structural foundation issues. It can happen. It happens in this part of the world a lot. And so what you need to do is you need to find out, what the problem is, get it examined by experts, because this is not your area of expertise, is it? No, it's not. Could be a small problem. Not much to worry about. Could be a small problem that will become a bigger problem if you don't do something about it. Or it could be a big problem that just really needs to be fixed. At USS, United Structural Systems, they have over 25,000 satisfied residential customers. And so this is what they'll do. They'll come out, they'll tell you what's going on. They'll tell you what they can do to remediate the problem. And then if you decide to go forward, you don't pay a penny until the job is done and you are completely satisfied. At USS, they guarantee their best. They're serving Middle Tennessee, Southern Kentucky, Western Kentucky, Northern Alabama, online at USSTN.com or call this number, 615-488-7855.
President Biden meeting with Alexei Navalny's widow and daughter, housing prices in the nation, and a father facing life in prison. We'll tell you where and what for 30 minutes after the hour of 3 o'clock right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is 26 minutes now past the hour. Looky there. It's in the newsroom. It's Mac Morey with all the stories. Mac,
Hello.
yeah, and of course he's the host of the breakout runaway smash hit segment, Mac Morey's Wild World of Sports, which happens every day at 5:25. Sometimes the things that happen in sports are news and worth talking about. But and I'm telling you, Mac does a great job at unraveling all of that for us. He's really very quite knowledgeable. We're lucky to have him to do that. So that'll be at 5:25. Chris Webber's sloughing off today. I don't know where he is. He's
Slacker.
He's a slacker. He is
sleeping all day.
That's right. We got Mason Fleming in, and his very able Mason Fleming.
I appreciate it,
and thank you so much for joining us there. He's in charge of the control room there.
Yes.
With all the blinky buttons.
Do my best.
And right, and we need to do this show at warp 3. All right, so there we have it. I want to mention we have a Super Talk event that's coming up on the 5th of March over at the Nashville Palace. Now, here's the details on it, and I want to make sure you understand. It's free, no cost to get in. If you want food or drink, it's on you, because I didn't take you to Ray's, and neither did we. So, you're going to be on the hook for that. But it'll be a free event, good time to hang out. We're going to be doing, my broadcast is going to be out there. And then we'll have continue the broadcast with everybody at 6 or even before. It's loosey-goosey. When they show up, they may be on the air, but everybody will be there eventually. Everybody will be crashing the boards. This is the evening of Super Tuesday. This is the day that Donald Trump is widely expected to clinch his nomination, Republican nomination for presidency. So join Dan, Chris, Matt, and me for a night of fun, food, and conversation. You need to RSVP online, and then you're in the running for a massive hot chicken and barbecue tailgate package that will feed 25 people. Maybe you could feed me, because they always forget about bringing me food when I'm there. So that'd be nice. Starts at 6 o'clock. Details at 99.7 WTN. Sponsored by the Glock Store at shoot270.com. Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, and Nutrition.com. So a good time will be had by all, and, it's always good when we get together. It's fun to hang out with people who sort of see the world like you do. And so, join us out there. Again, that's it's early in the day. Nashville Palace on Super Tuesday, March 5th. The broadcast starts at 6, but we'll be there before then, so, come on out. And so there you have that. Again, coming up throughout the day today, we're going to be talking about some stories out of Tennessee that I think are worth talking about. Some stories that are important, and some stories I scratch my head wondering why they're even stories at all. But I'll get to that. And then in the 4 o'clock hour, we will have a 2020 update with some new numbers, and we'll explore what is Nikki Haley up to. I think that's a good question. And then also in the 4 o'clock hour, the whole thing going on with the border, it's really maddening to me. I have a hard time understanding how it is that Joe Biden says he doesn't have the authority, he can't do anything to solve the problem at the border, but then all of a sudden now he's exploring ways he can solve the problem at the border through executive order. I mean, he uses executive orders for everything else, but why is it only now he feels like he needs to do something on the border? I'll tell you why. Because he's realized it's not going over with the American people, what his policy has been, and he's running for re-election. So got to do something on that. All those stories and much more coming up here on The Drive between now and 7 o'clock. Right now, time for news with Mac Morey on Super Talk.
.30, I'm Mac Morey with your top stories right now. 56 degrees, cloudy, little bit of rain coming down on and off. Expecting that to sustain throughout the afternoon into this evening. We got a weather forecast. We'll tell you all about it. Plus, a traffic report taking a look at those busy roads 5 minutes away. President Biden met today in San Francisco with Alexei Navalny's widow and daughter. Here's Karen Travers.
President Biden told reporters he had the honor of meeting with Alexei Navalny's wife and daughter.
He was a man of incredible courage, and it's amazing how his wife and daughter are emulating that. And we're going to be announcing the sanctions against Putin, who is responsible for his death, tomorrow.
The White House has said these sanctions on Russia will be substantial, the latest effort to choke off Russia's ability to fund its war against Ukraine.
Housing demand is higher in 2024. Existing home sales increased by more than 3% in January compared to December. The National Association of Realtors says sales sped up in the Midwest, South, and West and held steady in the Northeast. The number declined from January of 2023, but prices did not. The median sale price for an existing home is up 5% from a year ago to $379,000. A New Hampshire man faces life in prison after he was convicted of murdering his daughter. Brian Clark.
Police in New Hampshire believe that 5-year-old Harmony Montgomery was killed sometime in 2019. Her father did not report her missing until 2021, and even though her body's never been found, Adam Montgomery was convicted of second-degree murder on Thursday.
This isn't about winning or losing. This is about a 5-year-old girl that was murdered by her father.
Manchester Police Chief Alan Aldenberg said officers remain committed to finding Harmony.
And that's the latest news. Traffic and weather on the way. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Let me tell you, if I could, about the folks over at the Wellness Institute of Nashville. Imagine what you could do, how you would feel if you or your loved one had no pain. Dr. Mitchell and Dr. Ashley at the Wellness Institute can lead you to a pain-free life. During the month of February, the Wellness Institute of Nashville is offering life-changing, non-surgical spinal decompression at 50% off, and this means payments can be as low as $30. Just call 615-246-5009 to set up your consultation. Now, during that consultation, Dr. Mitchell and Dr. Ashley will review an advanced report of findings and review any previous MRIs you might have. They often find things that other people have missed. You can decide on which then of your new age technologies is the best fit for you. Besides the non-surgical spinal decompression, they have robot laser and knee decompression for those with knee ailments. Remember, it's 50% off non-surgical spinal decompression for new patients. And that's cheaper than most of your insurance copays in many cases. So call Dr. Mitchell and Dr. Ashley to set up your consultation today, 615-246-5009. I'm Brian Wilson, and the Wellness Institute of Nashville has my personal stamp of approval. So call them today, 615-246-5009. Learn more at painisbad.com. 38 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy, and you're listening to The Drive on this Thursday, February 22nd. Glad you're with us. Buckle up, everybody. We'll get you all kinds of news and information while you're moving about, trying to get to, ultimately, I guess, to the house. Here we go. Tennessee minimum wage could rise to $20 an hour if a new bill passes. Now, this is a story I found on Channel 4's website, and it could rise from $7.25 to $20 if a new bill passes in the General Assembly. That much is true. If it were to pass the General Assembly, then that would be what would happen. However, I think one has to wonder: is it really going to pass the General Assembly? I don't think it will. This is being brought to you by Representative Gloria Johnson, Democrat of Knoxville, and Senator Sarah Kyle, Democrat of Memphis. It aims to raise the hourly minimum wage in the state. It's been assigned to committees and subcommittees for discussion in the House, which is usually a sign that maybe perhaps it's not going anywhere. In the Senate, it's passed on first and second consideration and been referred to the Senate Commerce and Labor Committee for, again, additional study. I guess the thing about I would say too is, look, I think I'm correct in saying that very few people probably get paid $7.25 an hour. You know what? I mean, at fast food restaurants, I know they get paid better than that right now. And Mason, you have worked in a lot of different jobs around town.
Oh, absolutely.
Am I correct? You do a job like where you park cars sometimes, right?
Yeah, I valet at a hotel now. Because we're tip-based on like servers and whatnot, we're not paid at a minimum wage rate. We are paid just below. I think our base valets are paid at, I think right now it's $6.50. But because I have a senior role in it, I'm at $7.50. So technically, I'm hitting minimum wage plus my tips that I'm making. So, but we're like right around there.
But I mean, on a good night, you can pull down what?
I would say $150 on top of what I'm making hourly. So
yeah,
I'm way above minimum wage for sure.
Yeah. So I mean, then this is the way that it works. And I mean, I know, for example, I was shocked when my daughter. As she was in high school, she took a job at a chain restaurant, just trying to put money in the bank for college,
Yeah.
And I could not believe the rate she was being paid.
Oh,
I mean, I was very
yeah.
surprised. So, I mean, I don't think many people get paid $7.25 an hour, or if it is, it's a situation like you have described here where there's a base, but you're basically a tip-based employee.
Yeah.
And you can do quite well, quite frankly, for the hours that you put in.
Absolutely. And like the only thing that fluctuates is like depending on what kind of season it is, especially for like travel stuff. If you're working in hotels, it kind of depends. Like right now, the past couple months have been very, very dry. I've made probably maybe like $60 a night. So I'm cutting in half what I normally make because it's just been a slower season. But on average, during our busy times, I'm more than I'm making plenty.
So tell me what's an average tip?
Oh my goodness. Average, I would say, is probably $3 to $5. But on better nights, like we have a nice steakhouse that's attached to the hotel, we'll get like $10 tips or $20 tips from that, just depending on how much they spent on dinner and how much they got left over.
Well, there's that.
Yeah,
I'm tipping too much, I'm afraid. I'll have to cut back. No.
Hey, whoa.
But anyway, I just wonder, is this going anywhere? I don't think so, because quite frankly. The minimum wage, I don't think means much anymore. Now, if you're a high school kid and you're working, pulling weeds in somebody's backyard, maybe you're going to get $7.25 an hour.
Yeah, that makes complete sense.
If you can find a high school kid who will pull weeds, because if you can find one, please send them to my house. I'll pay him better than $7.25 an hour if you just pull weeds. That's what I used to do. I used to get paid the minimum wage to pull weeds when I was a kid.
Yeah, I did yard work all through high school.
Yeah.
Same here.
You know where I made my best money as a kid?
Where at?
I used to wax and detail cars.
Oh, interesting.
Nice.
And you didn't get paid by the hour. You got paid on the job. And
okay.
I put some money away, man, one summer just going around and telling people I would wash, wax, and detail their cars.
I believe it 100%. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I made good money doing that. But that's, I think Again, 725. I don't know anybody who's getting 725. I really don't. Dangerous intersections plague pedestrians and cyclists in Nashville. We have to be aware, screams the Tennessean story. And it goes to tell the story of an individual who used to, and they try to put a human face on it, and talk about a guy who was living in Middle Tennessee, and he was they would go out to dinner all the time, and the guy says it's a memory he'll cherish, especially after his father, this guy he was talking about, was killed in a hit-and-run accident on April 16th along Bell Road. Okay, and I say, well, that's very sad, and especially that it was a hit-and-run accident, because that is, of course, a violation of the law. But as they go say the whole point of the story is to say we must do something to make the city safer for pedestrians. Okay, that's the goal of the story, I suppose. And they talk about all the roadway and the cyclist and the motorcyclist who are all lobbying to make the city safer for pedestrians. But then as you dig down into the story, you find out this individual that they were talking about earlier on. Listen to this. He was attempting to cross Bell Road outside the crosswalk when a white vehicle heading west struck him and then drove away. The person responsible stood at large. Now, of course, I don't, that's obviously wrong to roll away, but I just keep getting back to this. Everybody says we need to do something to make the city safer for pedestrians. Maybe it would be helpful if the pedestrians were not trying to cross the road in the middle of the road instead of on the crosswalks, following the laws that are in place for not only people who drive, but people who are pedestrians.
Absolutely. I was driving around running some errands in between some of the shows working here today, and there was a guy that, as I was pulling into the gas station, he walked out in front of traffic as the light had already changed and had to jump back as a car was coming. Obviously, they had the right of way because the light was green for them, and he was he looked at them like they were at fault, not him. And I was like, well, you got to be paying attention.
I probably have the distinction of being the only person you know who was actually a pedestrian in a car pedestrian accident. I was 18 years old, and I got nailed by a pickup truck after a high school football game, and I got thrown about 75 feet and ended up wrapped around a gas meter. And my right leg was broken in two places, and I was 18 years old.
Oh,
I mean, it was bad. And what was really bad is my mom, my dad, and my little sister saw it all happen before their very eyes. But it was a bad deal. But you know what? It's my fault. It was my damn fault. I tried to cross in the middle of a busy road. And I looked one way and didn't look carefully enough in the other direction, and I got hit. It wasn't anybody's fault but mine. So, again, you say, well, we need to make the city safer for pedestrians. How about if you want to make city safer for pedestrians, how about an educational effort that teaches pedestrians to follow the rules instead of blaming it on the people who are driving cars? I don't know. I have a feeling that a lot of this probably has to do with people who are watching their cell phones and not paying attention to what's going on. Maybe that's part of it. But I mean, honestly, if you're crossing in the middle of a road and you get hit, I do understand that, as a driver, you got to look out for pedestrians. But come on, the pedestrians have some obligation here as well.
Yeah, it's like a flashing sign that says stop isn't enough anymore. We need to start doing sound effects and music playing or something to grab people's attention, to pay attention to it by now.
Yeah, I think probably if there's one thing that could be said that drivers need to do, quite frankly, is that they need to not be distracted by their cell phones. That's a fair point, I think. But, that we need to spend all this kind of money. I don't know. What are they going to do to make it safer for pedestrians? I mean, an educational process that teaches pedestrians, what the rules are, as if you don't know. I knew the rules of crossing a street when I was a first grader. I mean, you stop, you push the button, you wait for traffic to clear, you look both ways, and then you venture across. That's the way it's done. Don't cross in the middle of the road, and stay off your cell phone, both drivers and pedestrians. This just brings some common sense to it. That's what needs to happen. We are getting a few more details from the governor's office about his Tennessee educational voucher program from News Channel 5. They have a few more details. And it says, here's some questions that people are asking. Is the program available for my child? The amendment says the department is awarding 20,000 scholarships in this order. 10,000 scholarships for students who are in households where they don't make a lot of money. Income does not go over 300% of the federal poverty level. And 10,000 other scholarships available for students whether they meet that criteria or not. So 10,000 will be needs-based, means testing, and then 10,000 will not. The 2025-26 school year, if funding is set out for the scholarship is not sufficient, the amendment lays out an order that will receive the money first. Students who got the scholarship in the previous year, the student's household income doesn't go over 200% of federal poverty line. If the student's household income doesn't go over 300% of the federal poverty line, student is enrolled in a public school at the time of the application or eligible for kindergarten enrollment in public school in the upcoming school year, an eligible student in the order of application received by first come, first serve. You could use the money for tuition, fees, uniforms, textbook, curricula, instructional materials, tutoring, fees for transportation to and from school, required technology, all kinds of ways you can use the money. And what are the rules for taking the voucher? If already participating in the Tennessee Education Savings Account Pilot Program or the Individualized Education Account Program, you cannot receive the scholarship. His idea is the governor's idea here is to expand the vouchers to all 95 counties across the state. He calls it the Freedom Educational Scholarships, provide thousands of dollars for students to attend private classes. By the way, at the same time, he is also doing everything that he can to increase the amount of funding that will be for public schools. You can do both in this situation. But I love this idea because it feels like to me that if you're a parent with a kid in a school that's not getting the job done, you ought to have some other options available to you. And I like this idea completely. It is now 50 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
A government shutdown looming yet again. Pens can be used as a weapon. We'll tell you where that was proven. Car crash deaths in Tennessee and a big band touring through Music City. Those stories and more at 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey, McMurray, I heard your earlier newscast, and again, another shocking thing happened at B&A. 68 pounds of marijuana found in suitcases. How many times has this happened now?
It's crazy, man.
Yeah, and 68 pounds, and it was coming from California to Nashville. And here's just a little tidbit for all you folks out there who want to bring marijuana in from California.
Mm-hmm.
The airport has a drug-sniffing dog.
And he's real good.
And he's real good at it. That's right. Officer Havoc.
Yes.
I like it.
Way to go. Good boy, Havoc.
Looking at the markets, Dow Jones Industrial's up 456 points. It's Dow 39,000, ended the day at 39,069. S&P is up 105. The NASDAQ almost up 3%, up a whopping 460 points. What's going on? Well, let's check in with John Maxon over at Beacon Capital Management. John, it has a lot to do with this company, NVIDIA, that makes AI chips.
Yeah, Brian, it sure does. Artificial intelligence days like this are pretty rare. It was actually a record-setting day for the Dow and the S&P, and the NASDAQ for a brief time actually crossed its record, finished a little bit below that. But yesterday after the market closed, NVIDIA reported their record earnings, and it was on revenues, profits, and forecasts. The market's been really nervous about that this week. Their stock alone was up over 16% today, but it really sparked a global rally. A couple things lost in the translation. Jobless claims were down. The Fed is not going to like that. Several Fed officials have come out, have been very hawkish this week. And so we're going to have to really continue to watch that because rate cuts are really on the horizon is what the market's hoping for. But a great day in the market today, much to do with NVIDIA.
All right. Thank you, John. Learn about all the things that John and the other good folks over at Beacon Capital Management can help you get prepared for your transition to retirement. Just go to their website, askbeaconnow.com. 58 minutes past the hour. Discover your retirement savings potential in less than 30 seconds with Beacon Capital Management's free retirement savings calculator. This simple step-by-step calculator is easy to use, and you'll get results right away. Take the next step in your financial planning journey and see how much you could have saved for retirement by now. Get on the right track. Just visit AskBeaconNow.com to get started. And then the folks over at Beacon can help you in so many different ways. Maybe you want to do a deep dive with them. Here's the number to call, 615-488-9303. They will give you a chance to answer some questions, and then they'll get back to you. And here, you really have nothing to lose except for all the worry. Replace the worry with confidence that you're on the right path. Again, the number is 615-488-9303, and the experts at Beacon stand ready to take your stress away. Learn more at AskBeaconNow.com.
Four o'clock, I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. Currently 56 degrees on Music Row, experiencing rain on and off throughout the city into this evening. Traffic complete weather forecast coming up in 5 minutes. With Congress on another 2-week break, lawmakers will have just a few days to pass something to avoid another government shutdown before the March 1st deadline. Andy Field tells us negotiators are promising to reveal a plan this weekend.
Congressional leaders expected to announce Sunday how they will keep the government open despite failing to pass a complete budget bill 3 times in September. Spending authority runs out for 4 of 12 funding bills on March 1st. The others expire 7 days later. There appears to have been no progress on passing any of the full spending packages, which means another temporary fix may be the only solution.
Federal charges have been filed against a man accused of attacking a passenger on an Alaska Airlines flight with a bundle of pens. Alex Stone.
In court documents obtained by ABC News, federal prosecutors say Julio Lopez was on an Alaska Airlines flight last month flying from Seattle to Las Vegas, that he was fidgety during the flight and went to the bathroom. When he returned, he allegedly started punching a passenger sitting across the aisle, attacking the man with a bundle of pens. There was blood. Lopez was restrained. He allegedly told the FBI he thought the victim was the mafia who had been chasing him. Lopez is now facing charges.
Right now in Tennessee, Channel 4 reports based on research done by Dismuke Law that Tennessee has the 10th most car crash deaths in the nation, and they say it's due to inadequate road design. They looked at things like not enough warnings before exits, bad construction, and unclear pavement markings. Between 2017 and 2021, Tennessee had 36 fatal crashes involving poor road design. That's out of over 5,300 total fatal crashes. That ranks the state 10th in the country on the list for percentages of fatal crashes caused by poor road design. Arkansas had the highest percentage of crashes caused by that, followed by Alaska, then North Dakota. And some entertainment news. Band Kings of Leon will be making a stop in Music City on their tour, and that's in conjunction with their new album being released called Can We Please Have Fun? The album comes out in May. The tour starts in August. They'll come to Bridgestone Arena on September 26th. Tickets will be available during a pre-sale starting February 27th, with general public sales on March 1st. That's the latest news, traffic, and weather next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Hey, good afternoon. 7 minutes now past the hour, 4 o'clock. We're into hour number 2 already. Man, it's just flying by. Let's get you home safely. And while we're doing that, give you some news and information you can use from around the world, across the nation, up your street and right up your alley. We got all kinds of stuff, man. I mean, we got politics, we got controversy, we have some stuff that's just fun. But we'll start off with our 2024 update. Because we got new numbers. We have numbers that give us some idea of how things are shaping up. Again, this is I always want to say when people say, oh, I don't believe any of the polls. Okay, you don't have to. But I do think that they can be valuable. You don't look at one poll alone. You don't look at in one thing, and you look at trends. And that's generally what. And remember that a poll is a snapshot in time. It was whatever happened on that particular day. So let's just take a look at what they are, having done all of our, given all of our caveats. As you know, I really love to get into the battleground polls because I think that's where you win elections. There are always going to be some states that are going to be blue, and there's going to be some states that are going to be red. But it's those purple states you got to watch really closely. We gave you some yesterday, which Trump was doing quite well in some of those states. Here's 2 more. Again, these are Emerson numbers. Arizona in a 2-way race between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. Trump would win in Arizona if the election were held today by 3, if this poll is correct. If you go to a 5-way, which includes, some of the other minor candidates, including Kennedy, Trump would win by 6. That's right at the margin of error. Nevada, 2-way, Joe Biden versus Donald Trump. Trump wins by 6 in Nevada. If you go to the 5-way, he wins by 10. Again, Emerson polls. Now, let me just throw this out there for fun. If Biden perhaps is not the nominee, and it turns out to be for some reason Gavin Newsom in Arizona, Trump would still win by 13. And in Arizona and Nevada, it would be Trump winning by 17. Pretty amazing. If it happened to be Kamala Harris, Trump would win by 8 in Arizona and by 9 in Nevada. So, I mean, again, all of these battleground polls are starting to look pretty good for Donald Trump. And when you look at the general election, it's tighter. Here's a general election poll from Marquette. This is popular vote nationwide. Trump versus Biden in a 2-way race. Trump wins by 2. See, it tightens up. In a 5-way race, Trump wins by 3. If it was Haley versus Biden, Haley would win by 16. So there you have it. Those are the latest numbers. Oh, one other one. This is I almost hesitate not to give this one because it seems like such an outlier, but here we go. Former President Donald Trump took a 9-point lead over President Joe Biden in a poll released Tuesday. Respondents in the poll from Harris X preferred Trump over Biden by a margin of 47% to 38% in a matchup between the two, with 15% saying they did not know. When the pollsters added a third-party candidates, Trump's lead shrank to 8 points, from 9 to 8. That is the only poll that I have seen, the only single poll I've seen where when you go to the 5-way and use the third-party candidates, where Trump loses a point instead of gains a point or 2. Well, there you go. 70% of New Yorkers, 70% of New Yorkers, big blue state, believe Joe Biden is unfit for another presidential term. That's pretty amazing. Only 23% of poll respondents said Biden is fit for office, while Trump is not. 32% said both candidates are unfit. A plurality of 35% said Trump is suitable for office, while Biden is not. Notably, the Democrat leads the first American leader by only 10 points in New York, which is historically underwhelming. I mean, in other words, Biden is leading Trump in New York State by 10 points, and that's weak. So that tells you how blue New York is. But it also tells you that 70% of this very blue state believes Joe Biden shouldn't be given another presidential term. I can't imagine there's going to be a tremendous amount of enthusiasm in even some of these blue states, very blue states, when you have that kind of number at play. So what's going on with Nikki Haley? Why is she sticking it out in South Carolina? Well, something you need to know about South Carolina is apparently Democrats can cross over and play in the Republican primary. So she may have a lot of Democrats who support her. And so the numbers that we're seeing in the polls might be a little off. She might do better because Democrats want to mess with the situation. But here's a story I found in the National Pulse. Nikki Haley's presidential campaign is being bankrolled by over 5,200 former donors to Joe Biden's 2020 presidential campaign. Leading credence to Donald Trump's contention she is only remaining in the race to try and damage him ahead of the general election. The Biden donors underwriting Haley include 1,600 people who've donated over $500,000 in January alone, her biggest month for donations ever, despite the fact she was crushed by Trump in Iowa, and was placed third in New Hampshire. How about that? Getting a lot of money from Democrats. Isn't that interesting? And then there's this, and I'm on record with this. It's in the vault. If I turn out to be right, we're going to play that soundbite from way back when I made this prediction. Trump responds to no labels speculation surrounding Haley. This is from the Epoch Times. By the way, the president, I forgot to say, is in town today. Trump Force One is at B&A, baby. And he's going to be here until this evening. He's speaking to religious broadcasters out at Gaylord and doing other events. After Trump Force One touched down at the Greenville-Spartanburg International Airport on February 20th, former President Donald Trump greeted a line of his supporters, bantering and signing memorabilia. He also answered the questions from the Epoch Times. Does he think former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley will run as a no-labels candidate? After a moment, President Trump responded, "We've had enough of her." At the same time, roughly, Haley was giving that speech saying that she was not going to drop out of the February 24th Republican primary, a race she is widely expected to lose. I feel no need to kiss the ring. I have no fear of Trump's retribution. I'm not looking for anything from him. My own political future is of zero concern. She said her purpose has never been to stop Trump at all cost. South Carolina will vote on Saturday. That's 2 days from today. But on Sunday, I'll still be running for president because I'm not going anywhere. I mean, this is the thing that has sort of troubled me. I don't see a pathway to the Republican nomination, but I can see a pathway for Nikki Haley to potentially become the president of the United States as a third-party candidate. Potentially. I mean, if you start splitting the vote up enough, and she pulls those Republicans who don't like Trump, and there are a few, those Democrats who just can't bring themselves to vote for Biden, and a fair number of independent voters, she could pull a good number. And so I've always wondered, is she going to be the no-labels candidate? Will she run as an independent in the no-labels pack, or as an independent in another way? Is that her game? I mean, you have to wonder about it. I don't wonder about whether or not Gavin Newsom would be a concern if somehow they do the old switcheroo, the swapperoo at the convention, and somehow Gavin Newsom becomes the nominee. Listen to this story from redstate.com. Headline, only Gavin Newsom could turn a $97 billion record surplus into a $73 billion deficit in 2 years flat. In May of 2022, California had a surplus of $97.5 billion. But just like everything else in California, the good turns bad and fast. They now say they have a problem. They have a budget deficit of $73 billion. Wow. Way to go there, Gavin Newsom. You have to try hard to do that. A new report from California's nonpartisan legislative analyst office, the budget deficit could reach a record $73 billion. And so, I mean, you talk about all you got to do really to defeat Gavin Newsom is this argument. He'll do for America what he did to California. And that should frighten anybody. Have you seen pictures from the streets of San Francisco? Have you seen what's going on in LA? And again, now as a fiscal manager he went from a $73 billion surplus to a $97 billion surplus to a $73 billion deficit 2 years flat. Wow. You have to work really hard to do that. And then there's this, a lawsuit in New York led by the Republican National Committee saw sanity prevail, according to townhall.com, when an appellate court ruled that no non-U.S. citizens can vote in our elections. If the absurd policy had been allowed to stand, some 900,000 non-citizens would have been able to cast their votes in municipal elections in the Big Apple. In a 43-page order, the Associate Justice Paul Wooten of the Appellate Division for the Second Judicial Department in New York announced the decision. The local law is null and void on the grounds that it violates the New York State Constitution and the municipal home rule law. RNC Chairwoman Ronna McDaniel emphasized that the American election should be decided by American citizens, full stop. And the RNC devoted significant resources to stopping Democrats from letting non-citizens vote. And this massive court victory in America's biggest city demonstrates the impact the Republican election integrity legal operation has had. You know, here's the problem is that you say, okay, well, we're going to let non-citizens vote in municipal elections for things like mayor and council and school board and that kind of stuff. But we're not going to let them vote in national elections because that wouldn't be allowed. But once they get onto the voter rolls, how do you separate one from the other? What are the safeguards that are in place? Well, there are no safeguards. So that's a big dog deal, by the way, what happened in New York. And let's hope that they have success in having similar rulings in other states around the country where they say they're trying to allow non-citizens the ability to vote in local elections. But again, once they're on the rolls, it's a little unclear how you determine whether somebody is eligible to vote in a local election or in a national election, and abuse can happen. So they're on it. They're working it. I know everybody's concerned about voter integrity, so am I. But here's a real victory for the RNC out of the state of New York. 21 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock.
AT&T service has been restored after a nationwide outage for many people. Minimum wage could see an increase in Tennessee, and we've got some money news. Those stories at the bottom of the hour at 4 o'clock. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Okay, so I mean, this whole cell phone thing that went out this morning, it didn't. I don't think it affected us in our area too badly. At least I haven't heard any reports that it was bad. But I mean, I've seen the outage map, and it was a lot of parts of the country woke up and it didn't have their cell phone service. If you were a customer of AT&T, and there was some spillover to other Verizon accounts and others, but mostly AT&T. Well, they have gotten it back up and running. That's true. But it happened at about 3:35 this morning. Overnight. Outages reported affected Mint Mobile, Cricket Wireless, TracFone, U.S. Cellular, Boost Mobile, and AT&T Mobile, and a little bit of Verizon. Many smaller carriers share towers or are subsidiaries of larger providers, so that was going on. What was it? I mean, they're not telling us what it was, and they say, well, the matter is under investigation. Okay, that's fine. Some people are wondering if it was a cyber attack, an intentional malicious hack of their system. Some people speculated that it might have been a solar flare, but seems like if it had been a solar flare, it would have had perhaps a larger impact than just one company. So I don't know exactly what it is, but they certainly are being mysterious in trying to give us any answers. Maybe they don't know. It's entirely true. But everybody's back up now. That's the good news. But boy, I think we should stop and wonder, as I think Marco Rubio did this morning. Senator Marco Rubio warned on social media that the AT&T outage affecting tens of thousands of Americans pales in comparison to what a potential China cyber attack would look like. He said on X, "I don't know the cause of the AT&T outage, but I do know it'll be 100 times worse when China launches a cyber attack on America on the eve of a Taiwan invasion. And it won't just be your cell service. It will be your power, your water, your bank." And he used this as an opportunity to sort of, be an instructive moment, an educational moment. You have everybody's attention because they're talking about AT&T, but we're really not ready for what our adversaries can throw at us. I've heard it said that, the Chinese especially are out there probing every single day our infrastructure, our electricity grid, our water supply systems, our everything. I mean, everything we count on, the infrastructure of America, and working its way to find the sort of the weaknesses in everybody's system. And then when they find them, they just make a notation and put it into a big file for that day when it might be needed. And you may never know that you've been infiltrated by the Chinese or by some of these other governmental bad actors. But they're out there probing, and I'm assuming we do the same thing. Don't get me wrong. We should be. If we're not, we're doing the same thing so that, if we need to, before, action is taken on a military, you just knock out everybody's grid, and so that you can have the advantage. But I guarantee you don't know how bad it can be when you lose your technology in today's society. Think about it. First of all, you lose electricity. Nothing works, right? Your computers don't work. Nothing works. You lose water. Okay, man, you better go fill up the bathtub real quick because, how long is this going to last? How long will it take for them to get this thing straightened out? And just, you have to really think. And I always come back to this conversation saying, what am I doing to be prepared should that happen? Because, if there really is a massive cyber attack against us, let's say the Chinese decide they're going to invade Taiwan, that it's no longer a drill, it's the real thing. And to sort of put us off balance, they launch all of these cyber attack things that they've been squirreling away for years, all at the same time. Release the hounds. It could be bad. It could be really bad. I worry about that a great deal. And I think the thing that I keep coming back to is we need to be able to support ourselves for a short run until things could be put back in regular order. I mean, the grid could be out for a while. The water could be out for a while. You never know. You just need to make sure that you have a plan. So there you go. A good point by Marco Rubio. By the way, here's an example of what I'm talking about. Pharmacies nationwide report outages in the wake of a cyber attack. Prescriptions are delayed. Some people can't get their medicines today in some parts of the country because Change Healthcare got cyber attacked. They're calling it a cyber security issue. 31 minutes now past the hour, 4 o'clock.
"31 minutes after the hour of 4 o'clock, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. 56 degrees and a cloudy, wet day. Your forecast traffic report just ahead. AT&T says service has been restored to all customers affected by nationwide service outages. Brian Clark with the latest.
AT&T's apologized for the outages and says it's taking steps to ensure it does not happen again. But the federal government wants to know why this happened.
DHS and the FBI are looking into this as well, working with the tech industry, these network providers, to see what we can do from a federal perspective to lend hand to their investigative efforts.
National Security Communications Advisor John Kirby, the system that handles 911 calls, was affected by the outages.
And over 73,000 customers were affected at the peak of the problem today. Right now in Tennessee, Tennessee's minimum wage could rise to $20 an hour if a new bill passes. Channel 4 says the bill, co-sponsored by Knoxville Democrat State Rep Gloria Johnson and Memphis Democrat State Senator Sarah Kyle, has been assigned to committees and subcommittees for discussion in the House. In the Senate, it's passed on the first and second consideration and has been referred to the Senate Commerce and Labor Committee. Now over to some money news. Daria Albinger.
Stocks do a U-turn after several rough days, heading near and in some cases into record territory. The Dow soared 457 points. The S&P added 105, both closing at new highs. The Nasdaq closed up 461 points, just shy of a record. Nvidia sparked the rally a day after the AI chip maker reported another blockbuster quarter, jumping more than 15%. It's not just U.S. stocks surging. Japan's benchmark Nikkei shattered the record that it set in 1989 just before its financial market bubble burst, closing up just shy of 39,100 points, up 2.2%. First-time jobless claims hit their lowest level in 5 years, even with more high-profile companies announcing layoffs. Applications for unemployment benefits fell by 12,000 last week to 201,000. Weekly claims are considered a proxy for layoffs.
And that is the latest news, traffic, and weather on the way. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
You know, Grace Point Healthcare delivers medicine affordably with menu-style transparent pricing so you know how much it costs before the care is actually delivered. Best known for their Smart Care plans, which start at just $69 a month. You get unlimited office visits for that and free basic labs for the entire year. I mean, really not a bad deal when you think about it. And because they treat the whole family, even newborns, they can offer family plans as well. Now, here's what you might think about. In conjunction with a high deductible insurance plan, this Smart Care plan could save you and your family a lot of money. At Grace Point, they take their time with each patient. They see you the same or next day. There are no long wait times or crowded wait rooms, and they treat naturally whenever possible. It is also a military vet-owned practice. Just some of the reasons why it's been voted the best primary care provider time and time again. Grace Point Healthcare on Main Street is Franklin. It's in Franklin. That's right, Main Street. Call 599-6868 to schedule a visit. "39 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock. You're listening to The Drive, and I am your friend and radio buddy, Brian Wilson. Thank you for listening. Greatly appreciate you being along. We like being part of your drive home each day. Let's go to the swamp. This story, I mean, just, oh my gosh, what do you say about it? Remember that when Donald Trump was the president of the United States, we had a relatively secure border. Was it perfectly secure? No. Has it ever been perfectly secure? No. But it certainly was a lot better than what we have now. And the main reason that it changed was on the day that Joe Biden became president. Shortly after he took the oath of office, he issued some 94 executive orders, sort of redefining the way that the folks at ICE and the Border Patrol were going to be doing their job, and how the Biden administration would interpret current law. And as a result of it, it really put the handcuffs on the folks at the Border Patrol and ICE and kept them from doing their jobs, and essentially opened up the border so that we don't really have a border. It's so porous, it might not even be a border. I don't know why we even bother sometimes. And all along with the Republicans have saying the president can change this like that. The president can do that. He can snap his fingers. He can grab his pen. He can make up a couple of phone calls and put it right back like it was, because this is all on him. And they're right when they say that. This is all on him. The policies that have been in place down there have completely changed the way we look at immigration. Now we got people coming in from all over around the world. We got people that getting into the country. We're so overwhelmed we can't even keep up with all the people trying to get into the country. We have like 2 million or more gotaways. They're in this country. We don't know who they are. We don't know what they're up to. We don't know where they went. And we don't know where any of these people are, quite frankly, according to some of the more recent reporting. And so the Republicans in the House, they said, we had enough. We had enough. We're not going to put up with this anymore. We're not going to give you any money for Ukraine. We're not going to give you any more money for Israel. We're not going to give you more money. And we're not even sure we're going to pass a budget until you do something about this border. And the president, it wasn't that long ago, a couple weeks ago, was out there trying to get to the chopper. And as he was getting to the chopper, with all this big Sikorsky engine running in the background, he was asked, why don't you use your executive authority? And what he said was quite revealing. He doesn't think he has the ability to change the situation. Well, he certainly had the ability to change the situation to what we got now, but he says, no, Congress has to act.
Authority, or is there more you could do? Absent
That's all I can do. Just give me the power. I've asked for the very day I got in office. Give me the border patrol. Give me the people, the judges. Give me the people who can stop this and make it work for us.
Well, let me just tell you what that is. He always had the power. He was the reason that the whole thing fell apart. So now, obviously, as he's running for re-election, it has finally seeped into his dense little shrunken brain that indeed the American people are pretty hacked off about this. They're PO'd. They're completely hacked off. They're angry about what he has done, and they're going to blame him. So now, all of a sudden, you get this story. President Joe Biden is considering new executive actions to crack down on record migration at the southern border after congressional Republicans this month blocked border legislation backed by the White House. I don't think those two things are related. Biden administration, who spoke to USA Today on the condition of anonymity, stressed that no final decisions have been made regarding what additional executive actions, if any, could be taken. They're looking at provisions of federal immigration law routinely tapped by former President Donald Trump, the Associated Press has reported, in a move that could invite a backlash from progressive and immigration advocates. Well, okay, fine. That's fine. According to the AP, Biden is considering a potential action under Section 212F of the 1952 Immigration and Nationality Act, which allows the president to deny immigration for anyone deemed detrimental to the interests of the United States. He's got the power. He has all the power that he needs to do this. It has always been within his power. But it's now only when he realizes he's going to be blamed in the coming election for the mess at the border that he thinks, man, we better do something. We better do something pretty quick. So here we go. We got this other thing going on. We told you about this yesterday. This is from townhall.com, that nice Katie Pavlich. Biden buys another round of votes in defiance of the Supreme Court. Yes, that's right. Joe Biden is buying another round of votes by reallocating billions in student loan debt that was voluntarily taken out by wealthy degree holders. President Joe Biden announced on Wednesday everybody who was in on this, ends up getting an email from Joe Biden saying, "I canceled your debt. Now go vote for me." $1.2 billion of student debt relief for 153,000 people. He's sending emails to make sure they know whom to thank for it.
Where was this when I was paying off my student loans?
Yeah, I know. I feel the same exact way. And what about those of us who had kids and saved up the money and did the responsible thing in order to, make sure that my kid graduated with no debt, didn't have to take out a student loan. Boy, do I feel like a chump now. Wish I'd just been lazy and not been responsible.
Just waited and waited.
That's right. It would have been better for me. And then there's this. Oh, my goodness. Records show that the Biden's dog, Commander, has attacked the Secret Service members at least 24 times. President Biden's dog, Commander, reportedly bit and attacked numerous U.S. Secret Service personnel in at least 24 incidents between October of 2022 and July of 2023. That's less than a year, ladies and gentlemen, before he was ultimately removed from the White House campus. Newly released internal U.S. Secret Service documents posted by the Black Vault, obtained by Fox News, reveal at least 24 incidents in which the German Shepherd bit or attempted to bite Secret Service staff members or others. Now, look, as the owner of two troublesome dogs, I understand that sometimes, you can't be responsible for what a dog does. But my dogs mostly just, shred paper and chew on things. This dog was a menace to society. On December 23rd, the first family returning from the tennis pavilion when Commander attacked a staff member on the left forearm. Though fortunately the person was wearing multiple layers of clothing, the dog bite did not leave any marks. Might have destroyed the clothing, though.
That's a lawsuit in any
think,
other world.
Yeah. June 11th, 2023, an agent bitten by the family pet when First Lady Jill Biden moved from the cabana. Oh, I didn't know they had a cabana. To the Oval dining room. Documents show the agent held the door to the dining room to the First Lady when Commander jumped up onto the agent and bit him on the chest. 3 days later, they sent out a memo saying, hey, if you've been bitten by Commander, let us know. We need to know. June 15th, 2023, another agent was attacked, this time on the left arm and requiring stitches. The injury so bad that tours to the East Wing were stopped for 20 minutes to allow staff members time to clean up blood on the floor. Oh, my Lord. The recent dog bites have challenged us to adjust our operational tactics when Commander is present. Please give lots of room. He said, we will continue to keep the president, I assume, in our sight, but must be creative to ensure our own personal safety. Commander was running loose in the backyard July 29th, 2023, on the property at the time of the attack when he started barking. The agent reported hearing who he believed was First Lady. Then when Commander ran toward the agent and bit the agent on the left forearm, the bite created a severe, deep open wound, resulting in significant blood loss. After the incident, the agent was treated and received 6 stitches in the left forearm and antibiotics for the wound. September 2023, they finally removed the dog from the White House campus. Oh, my gosh.
That's wild that it took that many
How could
incidents.
If you're the owner of a dog and regardless of whether you're the president or not, and you know that your dog has bitten people some 24 times inside of about, 10 months?
Yeah.
How do you not take action on that? How do you not try to do something about it?
Well, Brian, if I may correct you, at least 24 times.
Yeah.
This could be, 40. Who knows?
Yeah,
at least
I know.
24.
I know.
Yeah, those are the only reported ones. Holy cow! And it makes me wonder: is that a training issue, or does the dog almost feel a sense of protection, like towards the family? Like I don't know what it is.
I don't know what it is, but I mean, one bite and that dog should have been gone.
Yeah.
I mean, if the dog bites a Secret Service agent, and first of all, I don't think they care about the Secret Service agents. I mean, there have been stories that when he was vice president, that Biden used to like to go. They have a residence there in Washington called the Naval Observatory, where he has his home, and it's got a pool, and it's actually on a naval observatory. It's where the atomic clock is kept, and they actually have an observatory for back in the day when they were, they weren't everywhere for studying the skies, telescopes, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's also the atomic clock, and it's where the vice president lives, right next to the British embassy. And the rumor was, and it's been reported and never denied, that Joe Biden likes to go swimming in the Buff in front of female agents in the whole 9 yards. Didn't matter. So obviously, if you have that kind of disrespect for the people who are there to protect you, then probably you are. You don't really care if the dog bites the people who work for it. It's just the help.
Yeah. Oh my
What
God.
a mess. 51 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
New sanctions on Russia. AT&T service has been restored. A Tennessee company allegedly violating child labor laws for years. Marijuana, BNA, and music in Music City. Those stories, 5 o'clock, Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
The former president of the United States is here in Nashville as we speak. Mr. President, if you can hear me, our number is 615-737-9986. Feel free to use that number. Call in. We have some questions. We just love to chat. We'll tell you what he's doing here and what that's all about. And, of course, coming up in the next hour, the runaway smash hit segment that everybody is clamoring more for every day, Mac Maury's wild world of sports. Straight ahead right here in the 5 o'clock hour on Super Talk.
Five o'clock, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. 56 degrees, a cloudy, rainy day on Music Row. Traffic and a complete weather forecast coming up in 5 minutes. The United States promising a harsh new round of sanctions on Russia. Here's Ines de la Catera with more.
Undersecretary of State for Political Affairs Victoria Nuland promising that the Biden administration's forthcoming round of financial penalties against Russia would be crushing and consist of hundreds of sanctions, adding some of them will be targeted at folks directly involved in Navalny's death. The vast majority of them, though, are designed to further attrite Putin's war machine to close the gaps in the sanctions regime that he has been able to evade. The European Union and UK have also just unveiled new sanctions on Russia.
Cellular service has been restored for all AT&T customers after over 70,000 people were affected around the nation today. Verizon and T-Mobile customers were also partially affected. Still no concrete answers as to what caused this. AT&T trying to ensure it won't happen again. National Security Communications Advisory John Kirby says the DHS and FBI were involved and are working with the tech industry to help this investigation. The U.S. passed child labor protection laws 86 years ago, but the government says a Tennessee company, Fayette Janitorial, is breaking them and putting children at risk. Andy Field with details.
U.S. Labor Department saying a Tennessee sanitation company used children as young as 13 years old on overnight shifts to clean dangerous food processing equipment that's used to kill and render animals for meat products. That equipment severely injured at least one 14-year-old in Virginia. The government has issued a restraining order against the company.
Crime at BNA. 34-year-old Marquois Motley and 27-year-old Delonta Jackson were arrested yesterday as they were found with nearly 70 pounds of marijuana collectively. They were arriving from California. They were set to go to Washington, D.C. when Canine Havoc alerted an officer of their luggage. Officials found them at the gate getting ready for takeoff. They searched their suitcases, and then that's where they found the vacuum-sealed bags with the drugs inside. They're charged with drug possession with the intent to distribute. And some entertainment news. Band Kings of Leon will be making a stop in Music City on their tour that is in conjunction with their new album called Can We Please Have Fun? The album comes out in May. The tour starts in August. They'll come to Bridgestone Arena September 26th. Tickets will be available during a pre-sale starting February 27th with general public sales on March 1st. That's the latest news, traffic, and weather next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. 7 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock. You're listening to The Drive. Glad that you're with us. We want to get you home safely, give you some news and information. Maybe you'll learn a thing or two. Maybe Maybe you'll have some food for thought before you sit down for food with the family. That'd be a good thing, wouldn't it? We're just happy that you're along, and got a lot of stuff to cover here. I made mention of it, and it is true. Former President of the United States, Donald Trump, is here in Nashville now for an address tonight to the religious broadcasters over at Gaylord, Opryland. Got a big at the convention center there. Bunch of religious broadcasters meeting there. I wasn't invited. I couldn't clean up my act in time to be included in that group, and so I wasn't there. But Mr. President, if you happen to be within the sound of our voice, we would happily take your call at 615-737-9986, or it's 615-737-WWTN. That ain't going to happen, but nonetheless, I would love it. Wouldn't it be something if the phone rang?
Like
Donald
perfect
Trump.
timing, just like.
Yeah. No, that would be great. That'd be fabulous. That'd be too cool. I thought if I were like a big dog politician, and I would pick up the phone on occasion and just call randomly, and it'd be cool. It'd be cool. We'd love to have that, but it ain't gonna happen. But one way or the other, hang around. Maybe it will, and then you will say, "I was there. I was listening when it happened." Trump Force One is at the airport. He's got this thing going tonight with the religious broadcasters. By the way, he's got another thing going on. It's called, the South Carolina primary, which is scheduled for Saturday. They vote on Saturday there in South Carolina. And he's going to smoke Nikki Haley. I mean, just going to crush her. Although it's interesting, I heard today that I was not aware of this. I'll have to say I did not know this was possible. But apparently the Democrats can cross over in South Carolina and mess around with the Republican primary. And since there wasn't, the only rule is you can't have also voted in the Democrat primary. So, and apparently turnout for the Democrat primary was very light in South Carolina. So, could be a lot of Democrats who cross over to sort of mess with Donald Trump. It could be possible. But right now, most of the polls that I've seen in the last couple of days have Donald Trump up by 22, somewhere between 22, 25, maybe more. So it looks like another big victory. And then Nikki Haley says she's going to stay in. What her purpose in staying in is hard for me to understand. But one way or the other, we're glad to have the former president in our town. And there's other things he's doing. Let's see. I got a rundown here. Is he doing anything else while in Nashville? The Tennessean asks. Yes, Trump is expected at a fundraiser here in Nashville. Hosts of the fundraiser includes Senator Marsha Blackburn, Senator Bill Hagerty, all 8 Republican members of the Tennessee U.S. House delegate. Well, I mean, I know some of those guys. Maybe they could hand him the phone. Musician Kid Rock is also set to participate in the fundraiser. All right. The cost for the reception is $1,000 a person.
Holy cow.
No, that's just to get to the reception.
Yeah.
$6,600 for a VIP reception and seating. $23,200 for a photo opportunity, VIP reception and seating during remarks. So, I actually know somebody who's going to be there today. He was going to have the VIP experience.
Ooh.
And already had, he said, if I get the chance to talk to him, I've got 4 points. I said, okay, that's great. Get your shot in while you can.
Yeah, lay him out there.
Yeah, but anyway, so we're always tickled to have him here and glad to have him in Nashville. The other day, Jill Biden was in town, and there's a lot of people come here to Nashville to raise money. And we're Democrat and Republican alike. There's no doubt what's going to happen in the state of Tennessee, by the way, on March 5th. I mean, just look at the mix of Republicans to Democrats in this state, and you'll see pretty clearly what's going to happen. This is Trump country and has been for some time. As you know, there was this reprehensible thing that happened to the former president with his trial where he was fined over $350 million. What a sham that thing was. That's a case should never have been brought. That's a case that's just wrong. This is a case of somebody deciding that they're going to prosecute an individual rather than prosecute a crime, because there was no crime. I mean, the allegation is that he overstated the value of some of his properties while he was applying for loans. Okay, here's what I would say to that. If you are a person who is thinking about giving somebody a loan, if you're a bank, and somebody says, okay, here's my collateral, and I think it's worth this, and I need X amount of dollars, you weigh that, and you look at several things. You look at, well, is the property really what he says it's worth? And then the other thing, well, what is this person's reputation for paying back loans? And do they have a history of defaulting on loans, or do they pay back their loans? And then you make a decision about whether or not you want to make the loan again. And if you have any qualms about the collateral, then you raise it. There are all kinds of people, very competent people who work for these big banks. And we're talking about big banks. Deutsche Bank, for example. And they have the ability to decide whether or not a piece of property is worth what you claim it is. And by the way, if you have a different disagreement about that, or a difference of opinion, there's a real easy way you solve it. You come back and you say, Mr. Trump, this property, you say it's worth X. We don't quite think it's worth that. Let's talk about, why you feel it's that way. Let's have a conversation about it. And maybe you may say, I can make the loan or I can't make the loan. One way or the other, it's the bank's decision. And so they decided to go forward with the loan. And here's the amazing part. Trump paid it back with interest. Nobody lost a penny. Where is the victim in this crime? And yet, this Judge Engoron, what a joke he is. Letitia James, what a joke she is. Made this decision that they were going to go out there and they were going to penalize him $350 million for something that happened in which nobody lost a red cent. And, it's going to bite them on the butt. It really is, because in New York, there are already developers are saying we'll never build another project in New York if those are the standards under which we have to play. Because what Donald Trump did and going after that loan happens in every city in America today on a daily basis. He did nothing wrong. But yet, he's facing a $355 million fine. It's just wrong. It's just wrong. I got to say, I think if I were somebody like Trump and they just came after me and came after me and came after me, I think at some point I might say, I don't know if this is worth it or not. I admire the fact that he decides that it is worth it. As he has once said, he said, they're not coming just after me. They're coming after you too. I'm just in the way. Just unbelievable. Anyway, the president is asking for a 1-month extension. Trump's lawyers claimed yesterday that the former president was not given ample notice of the high fine and accused New York Attorney General Letitia James of rushing to memorialize the judgment. Given that the court-appointed monitor continues to be in place, there is no prejudice to the Attorney General in briefly staying enforcement to allow for an orderly post-judgment process, particularly given the magnitude of the judgment. I agree. Without delay, Trump and his legal team will have 30 days to file the bond and appeal a ruling. The monitor will oversee the process, including the transfer of assets. Engoron ordered Trump and the Trump Organization to pay over $354 million in damages on Friday, and then banned the former president from serving as an officer of any New York corporation or legal entity for 3 years. His sons, Donald and Eric, were also banned from business in New York for 2 years and given a $4 million fine each. I'm telling you, this is just the most egregious application of the law that has ever been known in the history of this country. This is a vicious, vindictive prosecutor who is going after someone simply because he happens to be a political opponent, someone who differs in the way he looks at the world from the way she looks at the world. It's just wrong. I don't know how in the world it's okay in America to say I want to be the attorney general of this state because I want to go after Donald Trump. And if you make me the attorney general of this state, I will go after him. That's your platform? That's your platform? The former president is correct when he says this. He says, look at New York right now. What a disaster it is. It is. I mean, the crime is running rampant. The streets are filthy. You've got all of this problem with the immigrants who've come to New York City. You know what? They try to blame that on Texas. And Texas, may be responsible for about 10% of it. 90% of those immigrants found their way to New York City on their own. Now, blame your president on that one. But Donald Trump's right. Look at the city. And this is the thing. This is the thing that the attorney general decides is so important that they have to bring a case against Donald Trump for having what? Borrowed money and paid it back? It's maddening. I hope that New York City, learns a lesson out of this. And the lesson is you're going to have a screeching halt to all development in New York City. People can take their money elsewhere and develop it in places where you don't have to put up with this kind of stuff. It's wrong. It's wrong. It's wrong. I think on appeal, Donald Trump prevails. I really do. But because none of this, I think there's all kinds of reversible error in this particular case. So I see that I see somebody's on the phone. Somebody's on the phone. So is that the former president? Guy can dream, can he? Guy can hope, can he? It's 20 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
An update in the Israel-Hamas war. Cellular service has been restored for you AT&T customers, and an artificial intelligence program that a large tech company launched starting to put a pause on it. 5:30 Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Spanning the globe to bring you the constant variety of sport, the thrill of victory, and the agony of defeat.
That's right. It's time for Mac Morey's wild world of sports. And now here, without further ado, the man, the myth, the legend. You know him, you love him, you can't live without him. The incomparable Mac Morey, ladies and gentlemen.
Let's go.
We have a sort of a outdoor group today.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's a little rainy. I mean, it's tough to make it.
A little clap whoop, and they gave up. Not the usually enthusiastic crowd we have on.
That's okay. I'm gonna re-enthuse them. I'm gonna reinvigorate them with excitement.
All right. So, Mac, I didn't get the memo. What are we talking about today?
Well, I feel disrespectful for that I haven't been covering this team more this season, especially as a former volunteer, an alumni from the University of Tennessee, Knoxville. The Basketballs. We have not talked about the Tennessee Volunteers basketball team really this whole season, but we're at the end. We're almost, we're nearing the end of SEC play. We're getting into SEC tournament play, and you know what comes after conference tournament, guys? It's March Madness.
Right.
It's March Madness. We're really getting close to that. Tennessee, number 5 in the nation. I mean, this has been a top 10 team and really top 5 team for the whole season. Before the year, it was really talking about, okay, could Rick Barnes finally break the seal, finally get into that Final Four, maybe win a championship? And right now, throughout this whole season, they've sustained that sort of success. Obviously, a couple bumps in the road, but it comes at the hands of star player Dalton Knecht. Now, this is a guy who played a lot of his college ball at a small school in Colorado for 3 or 4 years, kind of went under the radar, and then Tennessee picked him up, and all of a sudden, headlines throughout the whole offseason. Knecht, look at this guy Knecht. Man, he's really killing it in practice. And it's going, okay, this guy out of a small school in Colorado going to come to SEC play and all of a sudden just kill it. And he scored a bunch of points. But he's doing the same thing here in D1 SEC play. He's the leading scorer. He's really on the short list for Naismith Player of the Year award list. I mean, he is a top 15 guy in college basketball right now, averaging 20 points a game, 5 rebounds, a couple assists, near a steal and a block per game, and he's shooting the three-point ball. I mean, he's shooting the triple from 40% from 3 right now. So
wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, so his clip from range is fantastic. He's 6'6", little over 200 pounds, and he's not European, but he kind of plays with a European style, and the way I mean that is, he's not beating people with elite speed. He's not jumping out of the gym. He kind of moves at this unorthodox pace that gets defenders kind of off of their rhythm. They, a normal hesitation speed, maybe just an inch, a second slower for him. But then that burst comes a second quicker than maybe others would expect. He just kind of moves just enough off kilter compared to other players that gets defenders out of whack. It's hard to necessarily just study his film, because the second you get on the hardwood with him, it's different than what you've seen the rest of the season to other elite scorers. He can do it from outside, as we talked about. He can do it from inside, his back to the basket game. He can shoot off the dribble. He can catch and shoot. This guy is a prolific scorer, not just a shooter, a scorer of the basketball, and he's going to be drafted in the NBA. I don't know if he's going to be a first-round pick because he's going to be 23 years old. He's going to be on that older end, but he's going to be playing in the NBA, and I think he'll be a helper for a roster right off the bat because of his knowledge, because of his scoring ability, and he's not a slouch on defense. And that's not just the only guy on this team. They've got speed with Zakai Ziegler, who was great for the team last year at point guard. They've got a couple other young guys, Jonas Adu, who's really found himself. I guess he's a junior. I think he's a junior, so I guess he's not one of the younger guys. But Meshack, a sophomore, who's really found himself coming off the edge as a two-way player. I really like this Vols team, and you look at the SEC standings right now, Brian. They are right there with Alabama. Alabama 11-2 in conference, 19-7 overall. Tennessee 10-3 in conference, but 20-6 overall, and that conference record's really what dictates the standings within your conference. So it doesn't matter that Tennessee has a better overall record. They're a game back with only 5 games remaining in the regular season schedule. But they will play each other. I mean, Tennessee and Alabama will face off here Saturday, March 2nd. And Alabama before that will take on Kentucky, which is, I mean, that's a good basketball team. Obviously, Calipari's always got his guys competing.
Right.
So if Alabama can drop that Kentucky game, all of a sudden conference records are tied, and Tennessee can clinch the conference here Saturday, March 2nd. As long as Tennessee doesn't screw up before then or after then, because they'll have to take on Kentucky, they'll have to take on South Carolina. Heck, I mean, 4 of the last 5 games for Tennessee are against ranked opponents. Auburn, Alabama, South Carolina, Kentucky. The whole SEC really, besides a few stragglers like Vanderbilt and Missouri, are really competitive. So we're getting closer to March. If you haven't watched college basketball, I'm telling you, Tennessee is a fun team to watch. They can win in a bunch of different ways, and they're going to be gearing up for a top 2 seed, I think, come March Madness.
Well, listen, that's fascinating, and I have not. I honestly don't follow basketball that closely, but I really want to see this guy Connect play.
Seriously, and what a great name. Connects from 3. I mean, he's really got it going on, and yeah, he seems like a good kid. He's the leader of the team, and to come in just one season off a small school and kind of take on that role, it's really fascinating.
How is it, though? I wonder how it is that somebody can be in a small school and go, and just missed by all of the scouts.
It's crazy because, we heard those stories back in the day. I think it was, Scottie Pippen, who kind of went unnoticed in high school and then goes to college, and all of a sudden, he becomes Scottie Pippen in Chicago with the Bulls. And that makes sense. There wasn't the internet. There wasn't, we weren't inundated with videos and highlights of every player. But I guess maybe that's why, you get a million videos sent to you and maybe one slips through the cracks. It's rarer, but Connect obviously was one who slipped through the cracks, and Rick Barnes poached him and is taking advantage. He's a fantastic basketball player.
I got to watch. I'm going to have to check it out. Listen, thank you so much for that. Great analysis, by the way. Time to take off that snazzy sports hat, which seems to be emblazoned in bright orange today.
Yes.
and put on your news hat because it's time for the news on Super Talk 99.7.
5:31, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. 55 degrees, cloudy, rainy on Music Row. Traffic report, weather forecast 5 minutes away. A new report predicting a horrifying number of new deaths in Gaza as the war there continues. In Estela Catera.
More than 85,000 people in Gaza could die over the next 6 months if the war between Israel and Hamas continues to escalate. That's according to the worst of 3 scenarios epidemiologists from Johns Hopkins University and the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine found. The report estimates that if a ceasefire is reached, more than 11,000 people will die over the same period.
Cellular service has been restored for all AT&T customers after over 70,000 people were affected around the nation today at the peak of the problem. Verizon and T-Mobile customers also partially affected. Still no concrete answers as to what exactly caused this. AT&T is trying to ensure that it won't happen again, but we don't know if it was a cyber attack, a hacker, or just some sort of technical malfunction. National Security Communications Advisor John Kirby said that the DHS and FBI are now involved, and they're working with the tech industry to aid with this investigation. And staying with the tech industry, this month, Google launched Gemini, an artificial intelligence program that can generate text and images. But now the tech giant facing pushback over some pictures the program created. Mike Dubusky.
When prompted to generate images of German soldiers from the early 40s, Google Gemini produces images of black men and Asian women, according to a report from The Verge. Other outlets found similar historical inaccuracies when asking the program to generate images of popes or the founding fathers. Now, Google says it's pausing Gemini's ability to create images of people. It also says the feature does generate a wide range of people, and that's generally a good thing, but it's missing the mark here.
And Google says it will re-release an improved version soon. That is the latest news, weather, traffic report next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
It is time to talk about Nashville Golden Coin. You know, the chairman of the Federal Reserve has said that the United States is on an unsustainable fiscal path. We aren't going to pay off the $34 trillion debt anytime soon, and they'll just print more money to pay the interest on the debt and then debase the U.S. dollar. What you want to do is save with gold and other precious metals. Now, maybe you're like me. You've thought about adding gold or other precious metals to your portfolio, but you feel like, well, I don't really have the knowledge I need to make a smart decision. That's the way I felt, but I got the professional guidance I needed at Nashville Golden Coin. That's the way it works. You sit down and make an appointment, and then you'll meet one-on-one with my friends at Nashville Golden Coin. They'll answer all your questions and help you make the precious metals investment that is right for you. It's friendly, you'll learn a lot, and you'll never be subjected to high-pressure sales pitches. And if you have some old coins laying around gathering dust, bring them along. You might be surprised just how much they're worth. To set up that one-on-one appointment, just go to NashvilleGoldenCoin.com. That's NashvilleGoldenCoin.com. It's 38 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock. We're rocking home, getting you home safely. I mean, it is sort of breezy out there, sort of raw. Temperatures around 58 degrees here in bucolic Watertown and the surrounding areas. So I just went out to stretch my legs, and my pink flamingo is gone flying out of the pool. They used to tell you, bring in the cushions and bring the umbrellas down outside and bring in the cushions because it's going to get windy. It might get stormy. They never say anything about the inflatable pink flamingos in your pool, and I got to go looking for it again. This is about the third time it's got blown away.
Just let it spread its wings. Let it fly for once.
Yeah. Flo, the flamingo. All right. There is a difference, and it's hard to know, I guess, when you don't know a lot about journalism or you don't know how stories and information is gathered for presentation to the public, and I did that for a lot of years. Before I became a giver of opinion, I used to be an actual, what we call, up-the-middle reporter. Tried to be, anyway. Gave it my best every day to go out there and report stuff and tell all sides of the stories. But I came to understand that over the years, there's a difference between somebody who's a reporter and somebody who's a repeater. A reporter is someone who takes the facts, examines them, tries to find out if what is being said is true and accurate, checks the facts, checks the assertions made by people, hears both sides, and puts out the story. A repeater is somebody who takes a press release and rewrites it, or takes a little bit of information and doesn't challenge it or doesn't look at it in an intellectual way to see if the thing that's being said actually makes any sense. Sometimes I think it's lazy reporting. Sometimes I think it's just people who aren't that bright who end up being reporters. And then sometimes I think it's absolutely slanted. I think this is a little bit of all three of those things is happening in Washington right now with this story about the Biden investigation. Republicans are seeking to preserve the credibility of their inquiries into the Biden family after a huge setback. Now, you may have heard this story that, well, there was an informant who has now that the FBI used to get all kinds of information about various things, who's now being charged as being a double agent, and so now they're saying that some of this person, maybe he wasn't as reliable as they thought he was. Okay, fair enough. I mean, I don't know what the FBI has on this guy. I don't know what it is, but they're now, since this guy also was the guy who wrote that was the source on that so much talked about 1023 form that was supposed to outline the allegations against the Biden family. And since he was supposed to be the source of that, many people have now said, well, since this guy we now know is not reliable, then that information was not. We don't know that to be true. We simply don't know that to be true. We know that somewhere along the line, this guy had a relationship with the FBI that went far beyond just this 1023. In fact, we had been told that he had been on as what do they call it, a confidential informant, a CI for the FBI for a number of years, and the FBI had paid him a lot of money over the course of a long period of time and thought that he was reliable. In fact, that was the assertion made when Christopher Wray, the director of the FBI, was called up on Capitol Hill to talk about this 1023 report regarding the Bidens. We think this guy is credible. We think this guy is reliable. We've been dealing with him for a long time, so we have some confidence that the information that he has given us is correct. Now, for some reason, the FBI has changed its opinion about this guy, and they say that, he's not to be trusted because he has ties to Russian intelligence. Okay. I don't know what it was that set the FBI off about this guy, but we don't know that the things that he put in that 1023 report regarding the Biden family and their dealings with Ukraine, Burisma, and all of that is wrong. We don't know that. We just know that the FBI has gone sour on the guy for some reason. He was playing both sides of the street maybe, and he got caught. I don't know. But one way or the other, when you see these stories, it makes me wonder, do these reporters have a brain cell working? From thehill.com, Republicans are seeking to preserve the credibility of their inquiries into the Biden family after a huge setback. On Tuesday, a court filing revealed that a former FBI informant behind a discredited claim, they say discredited, that President Biden and his son received bribes is allegedly linked to Russian intelligence. Democrats were quick to pounce, as you might imagine, including that completely unreliable Jamie Raskin, Democrat of Maryland. He says the revelation should be the beginning of the end of the impeachment inquiry into the president. Well, I bet he'd love that, wouldn't he? The former informant is a guy by the name of Alexander Smirnov. He was arrested last week and charged with making false statements to his FBI handler. It was only Tuesday that the allegation of his Russian links emerged. Raskin told reporters Wednesday, see, the impeachment investigation, it should have essentially ended yesterday, in substance if not in form, with the explosive revelation that Mr. Smirnov's allegation about Ukrainian Burisma payments to Joe Biden were concocted along with Russian intelligence agents. All right. Here's why that all of this is nonsense. The investigation being conducted by the House Committee on Oversight does not rely on this as evidence. Did they look at it? Sure. Did they want to know what was in it? Absolutely. Of course they want to know what's in it. Do they know that it was wrong? I don't know. But one way or the other, that's not the basis of the investigation. You know what the basis of the investigation is? Actual evidence. So, somebody can make a claim. Anybody can make a claim. That's not you don't go with that and say, well, this guy, this guy knows and that's the end of it. No, what you do is you look at the claim and then you go and you look at real things like bank records. And you start digging around and you do sworn depositions, and you start to develop the story. And so, you don't rely strictly on one person's say-so. And what we have found is that there's a lot of there. And this is from justthenews.com. This is correct. This is the way it should be looked at. Attempts to discredit the impeachment inquiry overlook concrete evidence. Democrat media have tried to discredit impeachment after U.S. Attorney Weiss brought charges against an FBI informant alleging he lied about Hunter Biden's Burisma work. Congressional Democrats pounced on the recent charges against a Hunter Biden informant, claiming the source's questionable reliability calls into question the foundation of the House Republicans' impeachment inquiry into President Biden. Yet the informant's information, which the prosecutors allege is false, has little to do with the concrete evidence assembled by the impeachment inquiry and from independent sources, including Just the News, that indicate that President Biden likely had knowledge of, participated in, and may have taken official actions based on his son's business ventures, something he said he never did. Last week, special counsel David Weiss, who's prosecuting Hunter Biden on alleged tax and gun crimes, recently charged an FBI informant with providing false information to the intelligence agency in his reports about the younger Biden's work with Burisma Holdings. And, of course, as I mentioned, Jamie Raskin jumped all over it. House Judiciary Chairman Jim Jordan, a leading Republican in the impeachment effort, pushed back on Raskin's characterization. When Christopher Steele lied to the FBI about President Trump, he gets paid more. When Smirnoff lies to the FBI about President Biden, he gets indicted. Go figure. It's a pretty good point. It does not change the fundamental facts. Despite Smirnoff's alleged lies, Raskin did not address the other evidence collected by the impeachment inquiry and journalists that raised concerns about Hunter Biden's foreign ventures and his father's involvement with them directly or tangentially. And he goes on to lay out what a lot of this evidence is, and there's a ton of it. When you hear something like this, it's very easy to say, well, gosh, guess there's nothing there. But what you're witnessing is lazy, unthinking reporters who may actually, be rather slanted in what they're reporting. I'm telling you, they've built a pretty interesting case based on bank records. Tell me this. What did Hunter Biden bring to the table of Burisma that merited all of that money going to Hunter Biden and his business partners? What did he bring to the table? A scintillating personality? He was a crackhead, an absolute degenerate at that point, strung out on booze and crack and who knows what else, barely able to function. No, it wasn't his sterling personality or his depth of knowledge about the energy business. It was his name. And that's what they were buying. They were buying influence by doing business with the Biden family. Here's this, by the way, James Biden, a lot of people, here's another example of lazy reporting. A lot of people reported James Biden's opening statement and said he never had any contact, my brother never had any contact with our business dealings at all. But there's evidence to the contrary. You don't just take somebody's opening statement and say, well, there's the truth. No, you look at what was actually learned in the deposition. And among the things that we have learned is that his testimony is at odds with the testimony of other people in sworn depositions. Somebody's right and somebody's wrong. I don't know. Be interesting to find out which one it is. So this investigation is still ongoing. Remember, they were doing business and then they tried to hide the nature of their business with 20 shell corporations and shady business transactions and transfers of money, claiming that, a bunch of money that went into Joe Biden's account was repayment for a loan. It just seems that nobody can find evidence of what that loan was all about. How about that? The story's not dead, and don't let anybody tell you that it is. There's still a lot of information to be run down, but there's some there to this thing, and it's not over yet. 51, past the hour of 5 o'clock.
AT&T is back with service. We're now getting some answers as to what happened. A campus death at Georgia University and one major automaker scaling their EV production back. Those stories and more coming up 6 o'clock. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, thank you, Mac Morey. Listen, we apparently, since the first time since 1972, we have landed back on the moon. I mean, not there aren't people there, but we have landed a lander there. Now, the question is, what kind of shape is the lander in? Because apparently it's the signals coming from the lander are said to be weak. But one way or the other, a successful landing of a U.S., I guess you would call it moon probe, has happened, a landing near the south pole of the moon today. We'll get you that story and a whole bunch of other stuff coming up next on Super Talk. In the meantime, let me tell you about the folks over at D.T. McCall and Sons. Good people. I mean, they've been around for more than 100 years. And here in Middle Tennessee, and I'll tell you, one of the things that I think is great about this company is that they have a great reputation for treating people right. I mean, that's why you survived so long, is you have to have a reputation for giving people what they want and treating them fairly. And so one of the things I would say to you, if you're thinking about buying furniture or appliances or something for your home, a gun safe, or maybe a mower as we're getting ready to hit into springtime, get back out into the yard, whatever it is that you're going to buy for your home, why don't you buy it from a company that's based right here in Middle Tennessee? Why don't you keep your dollars local? I mean, that's what they do. And whenever they want to, they can, whatever they possibly can, they sell products that are made and manufactured right here in Middle Tennessee. Isn't that what you want to do? Deal with a good local business rather than some nameless, faceless big box store? Listen, huge selection of appliances, furniture, just about anything that you could possibly need for your home. Find out about their 5 convenient locations by going to their website, dtmccalls.com.
Six o'clock, I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. 55 degrees, been a wet day in Nashville. Traffic complete weather forecast coming up in 5 minutes. We're now learning what caused AT&T's wireless network to turn off for many customers today. Alex Stone reports.
It was a high-priority investigation to figure out why AT&T's wireless network went down for tens of thousands of users. Now sources who are familiar with the matter tell ABC News it's been determined the AT&T outage was caused by a software update gone wrong. Sources say it's been determined there was nothing nefarious or malicious. AT&T is refusing to comment. The FBI was investigating in case it was a cyber attack.
Right now in Georgia, the University of Georgia Police Department investigating after a female student was found dead. She was on a run around noon. She never returned. They found the individual in the forested area behind Lake Herrick around 12:40. She was not conscious and not breathing. She had visible injuries. Officials say foul play is suspected. And just a day after a court released him, the FBI has now rearrested the informant who's been charged with lying about Hunter and President Joe Biden. Andy Field with details.
Former FBI informant Alexander Smirnov is back in federal custody just a day after a federal magistrate freed him pending trial. Government prosecutors argued Smirnov's foreign ties and access to money would allow him to flee the country. The judge still set him free under conditions. Now Smirnov's been rearrested. He's charged with ties to Russia and lying about Hunter Biden and the president receiving bribe money.
A major automaker revising its electrical vehicle plans. Mike Dubusky.
Mercedes had set itself a target of going all electric by 2030, but in the company's latest earnings statement, it now says it expects only half of the vehicles it sells to be electrified by that time, and that includes both hybrids and fully electric vehicles. Sales of EVs have stagnated in recent months, declining between December 2023 and January 2024 by 14%, according to the market research firm RowMotion.
And this comes after Forbes paused $12 billion in spending for new EV factories, and General Motors pushed back the release of several electric trucks and SUVs. Back here in Tennessee, hot slaw will now be considered a state food in Tennessee. The vinegary dish got its final approval today. Hot slaw will be joining the ranks of other official state symbols such as tomato, the state fruit, and the raccoon, the state's wild animal. That's the latest news, traffic, and weather on the way. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Good evening, everyone. 8 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk. Brian Wilson in the chair. So glad you're with us here on this Thursday, February 22nd. Are you getting close to home now? I want to get you home and give you some more information. You know, it's a busy day here in Nashville. The former president is in town, about to give a speech to the National Association of Religious Broadcasters out at Gaylord. Yeah, that's right. Trump Force One is parked at the B&A. Yeah, out there. You can't miss it. It's got Trump right on the big side of it. But anyway, yeah, he's here, and he's going to be, I guess, I'm surprised he's here this close to the South Carolina primary, but it's a good group for him to speak to, and he apparently was raising some money here as well. I'm trying to decide which way I want to go. I think I want to do this. A couple of stories have come down a little late this afternoon. I always try to take, during the news break at 6 o'clock to make sure that something hasn't happened since I've been on the air, to make sure I haven't missed anything for you. This story just jumps out at me. And since I have a couple of stories that have to do with, journalism and journalists, thought I would just put them together. From the Washington Examiner, President Joe Biden claimed at a Thursday fundraiser that two journalists specifically told him they plan to flee the country if he loses his White House re-election bid to former President Donald Trump. Biden made the comment at a fundraiser in Mountain View, California, the final stop on his 3-day junket in the Golden State, as he acknowledged former Today Show anchor Katie Couric's attendance at the event. Tells you everything you need to know about Katie Couric, right? Two of your former colleagues, not at the same network, personally told me that if he wins, they will have to leave the country because he's threatened to put them in jail, the president said to Couric. And on that claim, I call, come on, really? Biden devoted a good chunk of his remarks Thursday to attacking his likely general election opponent, as he has done on previous stops in Los Angeles and San Francisco during the trip. You see, the thing is, we won't see any of this. You want to know why? Because it's a fundraising trip. And, I used to do this all the time. And, boy, Bubba, Bill Clinton used to go to California about every other week. He loved it out there. And, since I was covering Bubba during the whole Monica Lewinsky affair, he wanted to be as far away from Washington, D.C. as he could possibly be. So he's always flying out on weekend trips, long weekend trips, leave on a Friday, come back late on Sunday. And he would go out there to raise money in Silicon Valley and other places. And, so I used to go out there a lot. But here's the thing you don't know is that reporters, when they're on a trip like that, they have to be in vicinity of the president. There's a small group of reporters that are selected on a rotating basis to fly with the president on Air Force One, the so-called pool reporters. I used to do that. And, they would fly with him. And then but when it comes to fundraisers, those are considered off-the-record private events, and you're not allowed to go. Now, sometimes through hook and crook, you find out a few things about what was being said. We have our ways, and you would find out about this was said or that was said, but you never any cameras. Never any cameras. So if he's out there, making a mess of himself, as he often does, when we can see him, we will not know it. If he's doing dumb stuff or stuttering or stammering or saying things that are wrong, but one way, you'll never find this. There's no video of this event. As I said, Biden devoted a good chunk of his remarks Thursday to attacking his likely general election opponent, as he's done at previous stops. There you go. He said, Biden claimed that working with Trump supporting Republican lawmakers was even harder than finding common ground with the late Senator Strom Thurmond and other real racists. I don't know. I thought Biden and Strom Thurmond actually got along when they were in the Senate together. Best I remember, I was there during that time. Biden served in the Senate in the 1970s, and so did Strom Thurmond. He was a character. Anyway, again, journalists say they're going to leave the country because they're afraid that Donald Trump is going to arrest them. Come on. doesn't that strain believability? Doesn't that strain credulity? All right, so there's that. There's that. CBS is facing an uproar, and you probably have not heard this story, after seizing the investigative files of journalist Catherine Herridge. Now, if you don't know, Catherine Herridge is a truly great investigative reporter. I used to work with her at Fox. I wouldn't say that we were friendly. I found her to be at sometimes difficult and sometimes really intense. But I tell you one thing I always respected about her was I found her to be a tremendous reporter. I had great admiration for her reporting abilities. When she told you something happened, you could go to the bank on it. It was correct, it was checked, and it was accurate. Well, she left Fox a few years back and went to work over at CBS, continued to do good work. I don't know that she got on the air all that much, but her work was widely revered and widely respected. But then the other day, they fired a bunch of people, and she was one of them who had got shown the door. And apparently now, according to Jonathan Turley, who wrote a column about this in The Hill, the folks at CBS have seized her records, her files, computers, and records, including information about privileged sources. Now, when you're a reporter, you get information sometimes by promising anonymity to sources. And you have to be careful about that because, sources can burn you. But if you over time, you develop what are known as reliable sources. When I worked on Capitol Hill, there were some people I could go to find out what was really going on, right? And at first I was very cautious when I would be told this. I wouldn't necessarily run with it until I found out that they had a track record of being right. And then that's what you call a reliable anonymous source. And you get really good information if the source is anonymous. But of course, the problem is so many sources today, they're anonymous and they turn out to be completely wrong. And then there's no follow-up. I mean, if I got told something by somebody that was an anonymous source, and I said, I'll give you anonymity if you'll tell me the information, and they gave me the information, and I was able to report it, it's a tried and true way of getting information when otherwise people are not going to tell you anything. Sometimes you have to promise anonymity. You don't do it all the time, but you do it sometimes. But if that person ever burned me, trust me, I was going to be hot on the phone back to them in a hot minute, asking them what the hell happened here, and find out why I had been misled. So many reporters nowadays, they get burned by anonymous sources, and they don't ever do anything about it. They just come back to them time and time again for more anonymous information that may or may not be good. Well, anyway, Catherine Herridge had a reputation of having good sources, really good sources. I mean, really, I stood in awe of her reporting ability. But why, when you give that promise of anonymity to a source, that's a reporter to source thing. You then develop the information and you present it to your news organization, and you tell them this comes from an anonymous source. Sometimes you have to, sort of show a little leg to your bosses to explain to them why you believe this information, but you try not to reveal the name of the source. You want to keep that between you and the source. But now, apparently, all these documents have been sealed, have been seized, rather, by CBS News. Jonathan Turley writes this: I have spoken confidentially with current and former CBS employees who have stated that they could not recall the company ever taking such a step before. One former CBS journalist said that many employees are confused why Herridge was laid off as one of the correspondents who broke news regularly and did a lot of original reporting. This has led to concerns about the source of the pressure. He added that he had never seen a seizure of records from a departing journalist and that the move has sent a chilling signal in the ranks of CBS. A former CBS manager who also spoke on condition of anonymity said that he had never heard of anything like this. He attested to the fact that in past departures, journalists took all their files their office contents. Indeed, the company would box up everything from cups to Post-its for departing reporters. He said holding of the material was outrageous and clearly endangered confidential sources. Herridge has declined to make any public comments on her departure, and CBS has not responded to inquiries. Doesn't smell good, though, does it? Sure doesn't. It sure doesn't. Here's what I'm hoping, though, is the case. Having been a reporter and having understood that, sometimes you can find yourself at odds with your employer, I always kept that information in a separate location. The really good stuff I didn't keep in my office where somebody could come in late at night and rummage through it. It stayed in my briefcase. It went home with me every night. And maybe copies were made at the house and left in my safe. I never, ever would allow all my really, really sensitive information to be put in a place where somebody could find it. So I don't know, but knowing Catherine Herridge as I do, at least a little, I have a great deal of certainty that she has done everything she needs to do to make sure she has not lost critical information. But it does raise questions about CBS, which used to be, boy, I'm telling you, the old Edward R. Murrow, Walter Cronkite days are gone, right? And the reason I think that she was fired, quite frankly, just between you and me, is my opinion. I don't have any inside knowledge. Is because she was raising hell with the Biden administration. She was breaking stories about the Biden administration, and they didn't like it. It's become corrupt. Washington and journalism has become very corrupt. It's hard to find honest reporters anymore. 20 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Well, you know what? We are in that time of year where it gets cold at night and it can be kind of warm during the day. You can reach into the 70s, and you might need your air conditioning, or you might need your AC, your HVAC, your heater. Whichever it is, you want both sides of your HVAC system to be working properly, right? And if it's not, just do what I would do. Call this number, 775-7833, 775-7833. That's the number to Busy Bee. They will buzz right over to your house, take care of whatever's going on. Maybe it's your plumbing, maybe it's your HVAC system, whatever it is. They'll get you back up and running as soon as possible. They've done it for me. I'm not only just somebody who reads their ads. I'm a customer. I've done a lot of business with Busy Bee, and I've always been very, very pleased. Listen, the way you avoid having these things break down unexpectedly is you do preventative maintenance on them from time to time. And that's what being a member of the Beehive Club is all about. Starts at $99. You get 3 thorough maintenance services, one aimed at heating, one aimed at cooling, one aimed at plumbing. No overtime charges, 24/7, 10% off all repairs. Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling is your official Rude Pro partner for satisfaction guaranteed. Call Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, 615-775-7833, online at busybeehvac.com. As of about an hour ago, the United States has returned to the moon in a significant way. Well, not with people, of course, but with a lunar lander. This is a private enterprise probe to the moon that was worked with, NASA worked with them to launch it. Now, it's an incredibly difficult thing to land on the moon. It's not easy. And a lot of people have tried. I think there was one that tried last week, a private enterprise attempt to land on the moon with a private lander, and it failed. We now know, as of about an hour ago, that this new lunar lander, built by Intuitive Machines, touched down, and they had to overcome a late-stage sort of glitch. The robotic spacecraft made history Thursday, becoming the first privately built craft to touch down on the lunar surface, as well as the first American vehicle to accomplish the feat in more than 50 years. Wow. 50 years. I always sort of felt it was sad that we had made so much progress back in the 1970s. The last lunar mission the United States conducted was in 1972. I was a sophomore in high school, and I'm older than dirt. That's how long it's been. Intuitive Machines Nova C lander, nicknamed Odysseus, launched into space on February 15th on a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket. Its 14-foot-tall lander spent 6 days cruising the 620,000 miles to the moon. The landing time was adjusted several times Thursday afternoon as Intuitive Machines adjusted the spacecraft's orbit around the moon. As it descended to the lunar surface, Odysseus targeted a landing site near a crater called Malapert A, close to the moon's south pole. The south polar region has been tantalizing for scientists for some time now. We never visited there when we were going with manned missions. Water ice is thought to be relatively abundant in the region's permanently shadowed craters. Odysseus is carrying a mix of commercial cargo and NASA science instruments on its journey, and the lander is expected to spend about a week collecting data on the moon before the lunar night sets in and the probe loses its power. It's really only expected to work about a week. This is how good NASA is. Roughly an hour before the landing, the company scrambled to resolve a problem with laser instruments designed to help the spacecraft assess the lunar terrain and find a safe and hazard-free spot to touch down. The laser rangefinders were not operable, but sensors on one of the NASA science instruments aboard the lander was repurposed in order to accomplish that same task. Wow. And they did this in a couple of hours. It's amazing. The mission is part of NASA's Commercial Lunar Payload Services Program. The space agency set up to support development of moon landers by private sector companies. NASA eventually plans to hire these companies to transport cargo and scientific instruments to the lunar surface as part of the agency's broader ambitions to return astronauts to the moon. And by the way, think of it sort of like our International Space Station. They want to set up these stations on the moon and man them permanently, just like we man the International Space Stations on a permanent basis. Well, that's pretty cool, I'll tell you. In addition to being the first commercial spacecraft on the moon, Odysseus also joins an elite club. Only the space agencies of the United States, the former Soviet Union, China, India, and Japan have successfully carried out a controlled or soft landing on the moon. Wow. Again, I'm excited about our space program. And people say, why go back to the moon? I think it's going to be of immense strategic importance. Military-wise, we should go back to the moon. And then, everybody thinks that the moon will be the sort of the leaping off place to go to Mars, which is Elon Musk's, it's the thing he's all about. He just wants to go to Mars. So we're doing things in space that we haven't done for a very long time. If I'm saddened by anything, it's that we waited so long to do it. 30 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock.
I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Experiencing on and off showers throughout Middle Tennessee. Full weather forecast, latest traffic report on the way in 5 minutes. New details on what led to many AT&T wireless devices to not work for hours today. Alex Stone has new reporting.
It was a software update that went wrong, according to sources who are familiar with the investigation into the AT&T wireless outage. There had been concerns it was a cyber attack, similar to how Israeli telecom has been targeted by Iran and its proxies in recent months. But sources are telling ABC News there was nothing nefarious or malicious in the end, and that it was simply computers not responding properly to an update.
Now over to our closing money news report. Daria Albinger fills us in on Wall Street.
Stocks do a U-turn after several rough days, heading near and in some cases into record territory. The Dow soared 457 points. The S&P added 105, both closing at new highs. The Nasdaq closed up 461 points, just shy of a record. Nvidia sparked the rally a day after the AI chip maker reported another blockbuster quarter, jumping more than 15%. It's not just U.S. stocks surging. Japan's benchmark Nikkei shattered the record that it set in 1989 just before its financial market bubble burst, closing up just shy of 39,100 points, up 2.2%. First-time jobless claims hit their lowest level in 5 years, even with more high-profile companies announcing layoffs. Applications for unemployment benefits fell by 12,000 last week to 201,000. Weekly claims are considered a proxy for layoffs.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Four 40 at Nolensville Pocket Accent. 40 west at Brawley Parkway. The right shoulder is blocked. Charlotte at Dr. D.B. Todd and 24 towards Haywood Lane. 65 from Goodlettsville back to Brawley Parkway. Some heavy congestion still. I'm Jack Welbeck. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Rain and a few storms tonight. I'm WSMV4 First Alert meteorologist Lisa Spencer. We're not expecting the storms to be severe, but we could get some heavy downpours, gusty winds, and some small-size hail. We'll start out the morning dry in the mid-40s, and it'll be a partly cloudy Friday with a high in the low 60s. Saturday's a breezy day and much cooler with a high near 50 degrees, and with a stiff wind, it'll feel even chillier.
Have you noticed how unreliable things have become these days? Like when someone tells you, oh, it'll be ready at 4, and then you get there and it's not ready. People are really tired of that kind of stuff. And if you've had it with unreliable vehicle repair shops, come to Eurofix. Eurofix turns unreliable into reliable. Eurofix will have your vehicle ready when it's supposed to be ready, so you're not standing around wasting your time. Eurofix repairs all European cars with quality that beats the dealer without dealer pricing, and that's because dealer repair shops are designed to pay virtually all of a dealership's overhead, and that's a lot of money. I mean, why would you want to pay for that? At Eurofix, reliable means a 3-year nationwide warranty plus a free loaner car with every repair appointment. Make sure you call ahead, as loaner cars are very popular. So if you're tired of unreliable repair shops, come to where it is reliable. Eurofix, family-owned for 24 years. Call 844-EUROFIX or visit myEurofix.com. That's myEurofix.com. And it's 37 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock. We're in the final throes of this program, the last segment before we call it a night. And I make the long, arduous trip from my studio to the house and have dinner with the missus and deal with the problematic French bulldogs. That's what my life is about these days. Problematic French bulldogs.
I'll trade you problems.
Yeah, listen, I'm telling you, if that's the worst problem I got, that's not so much of a problem.
Not too bad.
That one little one, though, she's something else. She's a mess.
How's she doing?
She's great, by the way. She's, there are moments when she's like the sweetest dog.
Yeah.
And then there are moments when you think, this is the demon dog from hell. So,
just keeping it on your toes, keeping you guessing.
That's right. She's going to be a good dog. She's going to work out just fine, but it's going to take a while.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, I like to do, a whole bunch of different kinds of stories and toward the end of the show, things that I feel like are important to get on the record and things that I haven't talked about perhaps throughout the show, but excuse me, things that I want to get in the record. It was noted by a lot of people today that Russian President Vladimir Putin took a trip on a nuclear-capable strategic bomber. It was widely seen as a public relations move designed to flaunt Russia's nuclear capabilities in defiance of the West. And he went on a ride in an upgraded Tu-106M bomber known as a Blackjack by NATO. Remarkably, it's funny, when I saw it, I said, you know what that looks like? It looks like a B-2 bomber. Not a B-2, a B-1 bomber. Looked like a B-1. Which is interesting because, all of the great aircraft that you see that China produces and all of the aircrafts that Russia produces, they all have strange resemblances to the aircraft we produce. We produce them first, and then they clone them. But anyway, state media showed Putin 71 taking off in the giant plane from a runway at the factory, and he flew for about an hour and returned. It was all a big dog and pony show, but not lost on it was the fact that this is an aircraft that can deliver nuclear weapons against the West if it's so desired to do so. It carries 12 cruise missiles or 12 nuclear-capable missiles. It can fly approximately 7,500 miles without refueling. A lot like our B-1. No kidding. Remember the other day when we got all up in knots about the fact that there was a secret, a really, really big secret that that the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee wanted Biden to declassify. And it wasn't more than a few hours later we found out what it was, because that's what reporters do. They find out this stuff. It was that we were concerned about an ability that Russia was contemplating to put nuclear weapons in space. And then we began, well, what are the nuclear weapons for? Well, not to attack people on Earth, at least not ostensibly. That's not the reason. But a system that would be in orbit around the Earth that could take out other satellite systems, either through a magnetic pulse or through, direct obliteration with a nuclear explosion. So everybody wondered, well, what's this all about? Interesting story here in the Washington Times. I think it's interesting. Elon Musk's Starlink satellites played a pivotal role in slowing Russia's invasion of Ukraine and helped save Kyiv from complete collapse in the early of 2022. But those same satellites may have sped up the Kremlin's determination to level the playing field and neutralize that advantage. You have to understand what Starlink is. Do you know what Starlink is? It's a pretty cool system that Elon Musk has put into orbit. And it's hundreds, maybe even thousands of these things are now orbiting the Earth. And what it allows you to do is you get a dish. In fact, I bought one. And I used it on my travel trailer. And you can be anywhere and get internet coverage at pretty good speeds anywhere you are in the world. Now, I took it on a trip down to the Mexican border that I took a vacation trip down there, and I was staying in a camp, actually in a glorified tent, not far from the Rio Grande River and way down the middle of nowhere. There aren't there's places where there isn't cell service. And I'll tell you, it was reliable enough that I sat in my tent and used that internet connection off my Starlink device to watch a movie in my tent. I mean, it streamed that well. It's pretty cool. I have to say it worked. Now, the downside to dealing with Starlink is that I couldn't get them on the phone to work out issues that I had. They were billing issues, and I couldn't. There are no human beings to talk to. It's maddening. You can't get anybody on the phone to talk to you. And so I basically I just quit paying them, and that's the only thing I could do because I couldn't get anybody on the phone to work through it. But the thing works. Well, during the early days of the Ukraine war, the first thing that the Russians do is they go in and take out all of your communication nodes and try to destroy your ability to have internet access and degrade your ability to do that. The way the Ukrainians got around it was Elon Musk sent them a bunch of his Starlink satellite dishes, and all of a sudden they're back up. They got internet. Any place they could get power, they could get, or even plug it into a car, you could get internet. Well, that saved them. Because it allowed them to do things that they weren't able to do otherwise. So the thinking is I'm making a big circle here. I'm coming back to my original point. The reason that Moscow may put anti-satellite nuclear weapons in orbit is because of Elon Musk's Starlink system. Maybe one of the things that he would like to be able to take out in time of an attack. The chain of satellites proved extremely resilient and helped preserve Ukraine's internet and communications access in the early crucial months of the war. And that access allowed the Ukrainian army to both fend off Russian aerial attacks on their homeland and target Russian positions, leading to a surprisingly strong showing for Kyiv and a series of embarrassing setbacks for the Russian military. So the idea of having a system that orbits the Earth that can take out satellites, this may have something to do with Starlink and Elon Musk. Fascinating. President Biden considering executive actions on the border powers once used by Trump. Isn't this rich? President Biden, through a series of executive orders, changed the way we interpret our laws on the border, shackled the Border Patrol, shackled ICE, and made the borders essentially porous. And they did this knowing full well what they were doing. There were, as by some accounts, 94 executive actions that made all of what you see on the border possible. Changed everything. Completely changed everything. And so, you have the president a while back was told by Republicans in the House, look, we're not going to give you any more money for Ukraine. We're not going to give you any more money for Israel or Taiwan or anything. We may not even pass a budget if you don't do something about the border. So they came up with a plan, and it was sorely lacking. It was just a joke, really. It didn't really solve any of the problems that need to be solved. Just basically, it was Biden's way of asking for more money so they could process people more quickly. It was completely rejected out of hand. And when that happened, Biden got frustrated. And when he gets frustrated, sometimes he throws little hissy fits out there on the lawn of the Capitol, on the lawn of the White House, while the helicopter's waiting on him.
With executive authority, is there more you can do? Absent
Not all I can do. Just give me the power. I've asked for the very day I got in office. Give me the border patrol. Give me the people, the judges. Give me the people who can stop this and make it work for us.
Yeah. You notice he said, give me the border patrol. He didn't say what they were going to be doing because he doesn't want enforcement on the border. He wants people to be processed quicker. Give me the judges so we can adjudicate this thing more quickly. Yes, that's what I need. Not really wanting to stop the flow of people across the border. There's just a little problem. Now that Republicans have said, no, we're not going to give you what you need. He was trying to blame it on Republicans and sort of change the narrative. Didn't work at all. Republicans wouldn't hear of it. Now comes this story. President Biden is considering executive action on the border powers once used by Trump. He always had the power. He has the power. It's his fault that the situation has deteriorated to as much as it has. He could snap his fingers at any time and reverse those executive orders and leave things like they were, and we would be much better off. But isn't it interesting that now, you know why? Because the American people are completely PO'd. I mean, they're angry about what's happening on the border. They're so mad they can't see straight. And they blame him for it. He's seen the polls. Now he feels like, well, if I'm going to have any chance of re-election, I gotta do something about this border thing. I thought I could blame it on the Republicans, but that didn't work. Now I got to find some kind of cushy thing. So they're looking for things that he can do by executive order. Well, this is easy. Just undo everything you did before. The problem is he's got to walk a tightrope because there are those on his side of the equation, on the Democrat side of the equation, who will be mad that he's doing this. So he's got to find he's got to walk that tightrope and figure it out. But I'm telling you, he's going to go back to doing exactly what Trump did, and he could have done it at any day. And that's the maddening thing about it. We wouldn't have, maybe as many as 10 million people in this country illegally if he had simply left things as they were. Amazing. The judge in the Trump civil fraud case has denied the request to delay the $355 million penalty. Earlier today, I talked about this story. This came down, about 4 o'clock. The New York judge presiding over former President Donald Trump's civil fraud case has denied the legal team's request to avoid paying a $355 million penalty in the case. Trump lawyers had asked Judge Arthur Engoron to delay enforcement. He said no. Well, there's no big surprise there. So I don't know how that's going to get resolved. Alina Habba, one of his attorneys, says that there's no doubt that they'll win on appeal, but the bottom line is you could find yourself going bankrupt paying the daily interest rate on that loan. So I don't know how they're going to resolve it. Bad news for the president, but I mean, I'm telling you, is there ever more egregious application of the law than in that case? I can't remember it. I can't remember it. By the way, our former president is here in Nashville tonight. Mr. President, welcome to Nashville. Get some hot chicken. We recommend it. There's something that's new out there that I don't know anything about called hot slaw. Might want to try some of that. Get some for Trump Force One for the trip back home. Have you had hot slaw?
I've not, but every time I hear hot slaw, I just think of like microwaved coleslaw, and it just doesn't sound good to me.
I don't know. I think it's hot spicy, not hot, I think.
But just the thought of it has turned me off of it.
All right, we have some dog news to wrap up with. 68 pounds of marijuana seized at the Nashville airport by Havoc. This has happened yet again. I don't know how many times they busted somebody for pot out there at the B&A.
What an impressive dog, too.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, Havoc. I want to meet Havoc.
Absolutely.
And the other dog story is that apparently we've now learned that Joe Biden's dog commander bit Secret Service agents not once, not twice, 24 times.
At least.
That we know. It's now 50 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. All right, I'm very excited because I'm in the middle of my journey to lose weight with the help from the folks at Restoration Wellness Med Spa in Lebanon. It's true, I lost a lot of weight last year, but that was a health issue, and when I started feeling better, I started gaining the weight back, and I don't want it to get out of control. We're right on the bubble of that happening. So I've never taken on a weight loss client before, but I really like the way Carly and Jamie and the folks at Restoration Wellness Med Spa approach this. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach. They took the time to look at my history, talk about my lifestyle, and then customize a plan that best fits my particular needs. It is a customized treatment plan, and I'll be sharing how it's going in the days ahead. But in the meantime, why don't you set up an appointment to develop your customized treatment plan at Restoration Wellness Med Spa. Be a part of the more than 1,000 patients who have already seen life-changing results. Whether your goal is to lose stubborn body fat or improve your overall health, Restoration Wellness has a solution for you. Take advantage of new ideas in weight loss management. 615-470-8124. Learn more at restorationwellnessmedspa.com.